Okay, welcome to the VGB show, episode 7, Rise of the Living Boomer Shooter. Before we begin, of course, I'm gonna take a second to play our lovely theme song. So sit back, relax, and enjoy.
It's the VGBs, they know all their stuff. The VGBs, no, it's not just a bluff. Let's talk about games, no, not 30 frames. The VGBs, the VGB show, tune in now.
The VGB show, and here we are. Hello, what's up, Zubby Dub Dub? How are you?
I just have to unmute myself. Hello, everybody.
Hello.
How's it going?
Hello.
How are you, Plush?
I'm okay, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good.
Hell yeah, I'm excited for today's topic to start discussing some of our favorite boomer shooters from the past and the present. But first, I would like to know, it's been 2 weeks since we did a VGB show. So what the hell, Zub, have you been playing recently?
I have been playing a lot of things, and I've been on a bit of a... I've been sorting Steam by new, which isn't always a good thing. But I've been looking at different roguelites and roguelikes and seeing... trying to look for genre mashups. So I've played some games which are FPS roguelites, battle royale roguelites.
They have roguelikes for everything. It's like every genre has a roguelike game for it, you know?
Yeah, and to be honest, a lot of them are done pretty poorly. Not because the genres don't meld together. I think you can do a roguelite in any genre, really.
Yeah.
And where is my racing roguelite? Where is it?
That would be cool.
Yeah,
You mean Shut Up and Grind isn't a good racing roguelite?
There's nothing roguelite about that game. Yeah, it's crap. It's crap. I hate that game. But it looks good from the trailers. It looks like a lot of fun. But yeah, it just does not work. I did play that game.
What was it called? It's Shut Up and Drift, right? Shut Up and Drift.
No, I think what was it called? It's on my Steam somewhere.
Sure, no problem. This game, I saw a trailer for it. I showed it to Zub. It's like, it looks kind of like Road Rash, I guess. Like it's or like the older era of racers that haven't quite figured out 3D yet. But you can do like really ridiculous stuff with your car, like grind on.
Oh, I know what it's called. It's called Buck Up and Drive.
Buck Up and Drive. That's what it was called.
Yeah. And it's basically a runner game. It's kind of similar to the old Ridge Racer games, but the tracks are randomly generated. So you're trying to get to a new checkpoint, and every time you get to a new checkpoint, you'll go into like a new area, basically, which has a different theme to it. But it's kind of got that Road Rash kind of like 2D-ness to it, where the tracks aren't really tracks. They're just kind of like fake left and right turns, basically, and then there's traffic in the way. But the whole thing about this game is that you're supposed to do tricks, you're supposed to drift, you're supposed to
dash other cars off the road.
Yeah, dash other cars off the road. But all of the controls are just really, really bad. Like, it started to hurt my hand after a while because you have to do like fighting game inputs to like do any sort of like move to ram the cars off the road or whatever. You can go off jumps and grind along the side rails of the map, but it slows you down. And the whole point of the game is to get to the checkpoint before the time runs out.
Okay.
But every system that they added to the game, apart from drifting, actually slows you down. So why would you do it? And then it's got the whole Mario Kart thing that if you drift, you build up a boost, and then you get 3 different levels of boost depending on how long you drift for. But like, because it's this 2D fake sort of procedural generation track, it's like you never know what's coming up like 30 yards ahead of you.
Right.
So you'll be drifting to the right, and then suddenly a massive left-hand turn will come along, and you're kind of drifting to the right, but you're going left. And it's just so like unsatisfying. And when you actually get a good boost, that feels good because you're flying through the traffic and whatnot. But it's just like, that's all the game is. It's just a runner. It's just...
Yeah, that's a shame. I mean, it looks... If you see a trailer for it, at least when I saw the trailer for it, I was like, oh, this looks really promising and really silly, and like it could be a lot of fun, but But apparently
it's just
not.
all of its systems they don't meld together, and they're not very good and not very satisfying. So I played it for like 45 minutes, I think, and then I was like, dude, this is the game. I know everything about this game now, and it's just not for me. It's
So-
not a roguelite. It's just one of
No.
those mobile runner games, really.
Yeah. So out of all the roguelites that you've been playing recently, like what's the one that like stands out the most to you right now?
Well, I think we're talking about boomer shooters today. So there was a boomer shooter FPS roguelite that I
Ooh,
found came
okay.
out recently. It's called Berserk Mode.
Alright.
And like I really like the premise of it. It's got procedurally generated sort of worlds which you go through the levels, try and get from A to B, and try and get through 7 worlds, which is a run. You've got random weapons, loot, upgrades, things like that between runs. You collect treasure to buy more. But the problem with it is that it says it's roguelite. The procedural generation in it is not very good. It's just probably about 3 or 4 different rooms per world that are just stuck together in different arrangements.
Oh no.
I wouldn't say 3 or 4. I'd probably say about 10 to 15 or something like that. But you always, every single run, it's like, I kind of recognize this as a level. It's not like, oh, this is totally different, you know?
Yeah.
In terms of secrets to getting extra treasure, it's like a tiny little path that goes off the beaten track, but most of it is just completely linear. It's just A to B. You can run through without shooting anything. And the biggest problem with it is that they introduced a stamina, Dark Souls stamina mechanic for shooting.
No.
And I'm like, oh,
For shooting,
dude,
so
really?
actually like firing the gun will drain stamina.
Yeah, firing any sort of gun. So it's supposed to be like medieval times, right? So your guns are like a quick repeating crossbow, a skull that shoots like shotgun pellets out of his eyeballs and stuff, which is cool. Like you think that is quite cool.
Yeah.
But it's just every time you fire, it drains so much of your stamina down that you will just be surrounded by enemies and your stamina is just completely depleted. You can't do anything.
Oof.
But I think the whole thing about it is this system that if you kill enough enemies in a short period of time, you transform into like an animal, and you can choose the animal which you can transform into. Which is cool. Your stamina gets refilled then, but then again it loses stamina. So you're pretty much in the same situation again very quickly after transforming.
No.
And then if you get enough kills in a short period of time while transformed, then you can ascend, which gives you unlimited stamina.
Ooh.
But only for 15 or so seconds. But I mean, I understand the system and like to try and get to that point, and you can do that probably about 30 times in a single level. So it's just literally normal mode, transform animal mode, and then ascension mode, and you just split between those, like alternate between those every I don't know minute.
What kind
or
of
so.
animals can you turn into?
Well, you can be like all these kind of mythical creatures, like a manticore and like a big one of those big lion things, which has like the head of a bloody owl or something. I don't know. But they're okay. They're quite cool. Like they're kind of based off the current weapons that are in the game, though. So you get like with the lion, you'll get a melee attack. With it, you can turn into a bear as well, which just has 2 melee attacks, which isn't anything different. It's just you have 2 little paws showing up. But there's nothing worse in a boomer shooter style game where they're stopping you from shooting, like arbitrarily. It's not like you've run out of ammo or anything. There's no ammo in the game, but this running out of stamina happens way too quickly to even act like a run out of ammo situation.
No, that doesn't sound great. Like a great mechanic to add into a game where shooting is the main mechanic. To have shooting drain a stamina bar.
And they have one like world in it where it's like little mini arenas where loads of enemies come pouring in. It's like the last level before you actually complete a run. And it's like loads of different arenas where there's enough room to do like circle strafing and stuff around a central plinth kind of thing. And it's like, okay, circle strafing, I see what I've got to do here. I've got to keep circling around and shooting things and trying to dodge in and out of them. It's like, this is cool. As soon as you start circle strafing, you get a quarter around your circle strafe, and then you run out of stamina. Now you have to stop shooting for about 5 seconds before you can start again. It's just like, this isn't fun. This isn't fun. You're
No.
stopping me from shooting in an FPS. Like, nah.
Do you prefer Berserk Mode over Into the Pit? Because I know you also recently played quite a bit of Into the Pit, and if you're not familiar, Into the Pit is kind of another roguelite boomer shooter inspired game, but it's instead of having... We'll talk a little bit about like what we think the DNA of like a boomer shooter is in a few minutes, but to me, Into the Pit is more like an arena shooter, because of just the level layouts are pretty much just big arenas. But if you had to pick one over the other, which one did you prefer? Into the Pit or Berserk
Into
Mode?
the Pit every
Really?
day of the week, probably 1,000 times more.
Wow.
Well, Into the Pit. I played a lot of it. You know, I did. Like, I pretty much beat the whole thing, right?
Yeah.
But Into the Pit has interesting weapons. It doesn't stop you from shooting.
That's true.
It's basically all boomer shooter, but you know, it hasn't got like the meticulously designed levels, like you said. You get put into random arenas, but that's fine. Like, if they do it like that, that's okay. But you got to have the boomer shooter mechanics down like completely.
Right.
But the only thing that I didn't like about that game, and I think it's something that can be fixed, is that in a boomer shooter, like you think of Doom or Duke Nukem, like all of the walls and everything were very just straight. You know, it might have some rudimentary textures on it or whatever to show that there's like a vine on it or maybe some brickwork or something. But
right.
Into the Pit, they decided to put real vines and all this sort of stuff on it, 3D model vines and things. But you get caught on it. They're not like, you can't pass through them.
Right.
So if I'm jumping around in a circle strafe and I get a little bit too close to the wall, which has a vine on it, it will like sometimes even just stick me into the wall, like into the geometry, and then I'm just stuck. And then the enemies, then the melee enemies, just come towards you and just absolutely just rip you to pieces. And it's just like, oh, like that wasn't my fault. That's the game's fault that's like done that to me. So that was my
like
biggest. It might be fixed now. I don't know.
Maybe I only played a little bit of it compared to you, but when I played Into the Pit, yeah, it seemed like every wall had like these kind of like crystal structures like poking out of it, almost like overgrowth, but they were like crystals instead of like vegetation. And there's so many of them, and I don't know if those are procedurally generated as well, but yeah, when you're trying to circle strafe around and stick to the edge of the map, it's pretty much impossible. You're constantly colliding with the geometry on the walls. And
I think the problem is as well is that they had like this kind of physics engine where if you can jump in it just like you can with most like sort of boomer shooters, but when you jump, you if you hit into something on your way up in a jump, it won't just like knock you back down. Like a physics engine will just say, oh, you hit this at this angle, then it will hit you the other way.
Yeah.
It won't do that. It still thinks you're going up, but you're just stuck underneath it. So you can literally stick to something like glue until your actual jump is supposed to be coming back down again. And then you'll sort of like fall away from it. So if you jump and hit a crystal right at the beginning of your jump, you're kind of like the top of your head is like stuck to it or something. And I'm just like, oh man, it's so annoying. Really, really annoying. There's just like one thing about that game, besides from a few other nitpicks, that was like almost a deal breaker for me, because it could end your run completely after like 30 minutes of you playing. It's like, oh.
The good thing about Into the Pit was that it had pretty like interesting upgrade paths for all the different kind of weapons you could get. It wasn't so much weapons in Into the Pit, it was more like spells, I guess, right? Because you're constantly like firing.
Hands,
everything comes out of your hands. So, and you use your left and your right hand, so you can have a different ability equipped to each hand, and they each have kind of like upgrade paths that you can go down.
But they all have the weapon tropes, don't they? Like one is like a shotgun spell, one is like a sniper spell, one is like a rocket launcher spell.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
it's pretty much still like picking up a weapon. Yeah.
But it had like an upgrade path through a run, like you would in like something like Hades. So you get into a hub world, like kind of Crash Bandicoot style, and there'll be loads of little levels dropped around, and then you can go into whichever door that you want to get a particular reward. It will tell you the reward that you're going to get, so you can pick what you need, whether it's gold or an upgrade or whatever. and then you go in there, you fight a little arena battle, you come back to the hub and pick up your upgrade, and then you do that maybe 4 times per world, and then you go on to the next one. I think there's about 4 worlds or 5 worlds.
Right.
But yeah, like that's the basics of the game, and like I thought the upgrade paths and your weapons would get powerful enough that it felt really fun to play. But there was just a few things, like we said, about the walls and stuff that were just, oh my god, absolutely infuriated me.
Cool.
It's a shame.
Anything else you've been playing over the last 2 weeks? Any like big standouts?
No, started Legend of Dragoon on stream, which is cool.
Nice.
Doing little top 100 PS1 game challenges,
Yeah.
which is based off Metacritic, and the 100th game on it, I'm going 100 down to 1. The 100th game was Legend of Dragoon, a 50-hour game that I've never played. So, yeah. So we'll see. We'll see how far I get into that before I want to cry.
Yeah, you liking it so far?
Yeah, I like it so far. There's obviously there's random battles in it, which slow things down pretty significantly, but it's of that era. I think the story is pretty basic, kind of so far, JRPG fare, which is fine. It's a bit of a product of its time as well, because they're kind of like acting as if the girl is like, you're a girl, you can't fight.
Oh no.
And it's like, oh god, really? Like this was only in like the late 90s, so it's like, really, should you have been like that then? I don't know. But no, I enjoy it so far. We'll see what happens after another 20 or 30 hours, shall we?
Yeah. Well, you got 50.
What
to
about
go
you?
through.
Yeah, I got 50 to go through. Yeah, it's gonna be fun. But what about you, Pleshy? What have you been playing?
Yeah, I've been jumping around between a few different games. One of the ones I want to bring up is Vampire Survivors, which I found through you. You showed it to me.
Yeah.
And it's kind of taking the internet by storm, it seems. I've seen it streamed on Twitch to close to 20,000 people in one chat, and I've seen quite a few different YouTube videos on it. I made a few myself. I saw you made one as well, and it's one of those games that it's almost like it's very hands off, but also at the same time hands on, which is really appealing to me.
It's still quite involved, isn't it?
Yeah, it's kind of similar to Loop Hero in that sense, where so you play as a character, essentially like a Castlevania archetype of a character, and they have a bunch that you can pick through that all have kind of different stats and different starting weapons, and essentially your character just needs to survive 30 minutes on a field or in a in a build, like a library style stage, and the character auto attacks. It's all you really have to do is move your character around and not get hit by the swarms and swarms of enemies coming in off screen. But in roguelike fashion, you kind of have a pool of weapons and passive abilities that have synergies with each other, and it's up to you to pick and choose what weapons you want, how you want to upgrade them to kind of maximize your potential of surviving the whole 30 minutes. And there's just something about that format and about the way that it plays that it's just like, it's very addicting. It's and it's so simple to just boot up and it's 30 minutes. You boot it up, you play it, you kill 30 minutes, and it's always fun. It's never not fun. So I've been playing quite a bit of that on and off, just for fun in my free time. It's just a perfect like kind of turn your brain off and let your hands do the work style game.
It's addictive, isn't it? Because like you said, it's there's not much that you have to do, but it's still very it's quite a hard game until you have enough points in your progressive or was it permanent upgrade trees and all this sort of stuff. But the best thing about that game is like you said, the swarms of enemies are ridiculous. Like there's so many enemies on screen that I think it was chugging your computer at one point.
It was, yeah, towards the very end.
Like,
once you get close to that 30-minute mark, I mean, there's got to be hundreds of enemies on the screen at once. My computer definitely did not know what was happening. It was yelling at me. Plush, what is this? I thought this was like an 8-bit game.
But the levels are basically infinite as well, isn't there? There's one level which is the library, which is basically a thin horizontal kind of arena, which just goes on forever. So, you can just keep going right in this arena, and you'll never ever hit the other side. You'll never loop back again.
No.
And if you leave some of these crystals that you pick up to level up behind somewhere at the beginning of the level, even 20 minutes later, you can pick up an attractor orb, which brings in all of the blue crystals that are on the map at that time, and they'll be coming in from all the way on that side of the map. So, like, the fact that it can remember all that and have all those enemies on screen and stuff, it is quite chuggy on the computer,
Yeah, it's impressive. It is. It's still in early access, so I'm very curious to see how it evolves over time. Like, not every weapon. Kind of the way that the weapon upgrades work are you'll pick up a weapon, let's say it's the knife, right? And it has a specific passive item that it synergizes with. So for the knife, it's the glove, and who knows if the glove is even going to spawn during your run. But if you level up the knife all the way and you have the glove in your inventory, it then like upgrades it to like a new weapon, essentially, with like an extra kind of punch behind it. So with the knife, if you get it all the way to level 8 and you have the glove, it turns into just this infinitely firing kind of like dagger thing. It shoots like, I don't know, like 5 or 6 daggers out constantly and never stops. So when you have this huge like horde of zombies or mummies or whatever, you can just kind of just walk forward and it just mows them right down. It's really good. I call the game Castlevania Warriors. Like, it's like a Dynasty Warriors game, but in the style of Castlevania. And I'm not talking like a modernized Castlevania. It's like, oh, this is Castlevania on SNES, but just able to handle thousands of things on the screen at once.
But the thing is, it's in early access at the moment.
Right.
There's a lot there to keep you occupied, but the game costs like £2.
Oh,
or
it's
like
a great
$3.
deal.
So it's like for £2, I could probably have a look to see how long I've played it for.
Yeah. What I was getting at was, since it's still in early access, not every weapon or every passive item synergizes. So you might get one weapon and level it all the way up, and it doesn't upgrade into anything new. So I'm very curious to see if they add, more synergies, if they add more characters. There's only 2 levels right now, one of which is, like, the first level to me seems a lot harder than the second level, which is kind of that horizontal library level.
Yeah, it's a lot easier,
And, it's almost like that second level is there for you to kind of grind up coins, because there's like a shop, or like a meta shop outside of the levels that you can spend coins on that don't disappear when you die. So, and that will upgrade the abilities and stuff, like pretty much just the base stats of any character or any passive item. So I'm curious to see where this goes by the end of it.
Well, breaking news.
Oh,
I was going to say that I've played 13 hours, nearly 14 hours of this game off a £2 purchase, which isn't bad.
Yeah.
But the other day I got all the achievements in it.
Ooh.
So I was like, very good. 3 new achievements have been added
Really?
to it.
Really?
So I don't know if they've got 3 new achievements. Oh, they've added 2 new characters as well. So
no way.
So
when was
this?
It's
being added to today at
wow.
6:47 p.m.
That's awesome.
There
That's
you go.
really cool.
So jump back into it. Have a look at the new characters.
Yeah. The one last thing I want to touch on with Vampire Survivors is, so this is a game that is just excellent for someone who all they care about in a video game is min-maxing, right? They just want to get the best build, the highest numbers, and sure, you can like look up like metas and stuff like that, but the fun is experimenting and trying everything out. So by the end of 30 minutes, right, if you survive 30 minutes in this game, you beat the level, but it spawns a Grim Reaper who essentially just rushes you and kills you right away. So kind of the end game right now of this game is, how can I survive as long as possible against these Reapers, and how can I possibly kill them? Because after a new one spawns every minute after 30 minutes. So if you don't kill the first one by minute 31, a second one spawns. So kind of my mindset in this game now is, okay, what can I do to survive as long as possible? And the other night, I, for the first time, made it to minute 32. I made it a little bit past minute 32. And the way that I did this was, I was in the library. I hit minute 30. The Reaper spawns in. And there's kind of like, in the library area, compared to the forest level, like the forest level is just this big, open plain with no kind of scenery or anything. You're just in a big field. They call it a forest, but there's no trees or anything. But in the library, there are things like tables, there's bookshelves and stuff that are kind of strewn throughout the map. This Reaper spawns in from the right side of the stage, rushes me, and runs into a bookshelf that's in the middle of the stage, and just gets stuck there. And I'm looking at it like, okay, I can take advantage of this. So I kind of like position my character on the other side of the bookshelf, where one of his weapons were kind of clipping through it and still hitting the Reaper. And it worked well. Minute 31 hits. A second Reaper comes in from the left side of the screen, gets stuck on the same bookshelf. All right, so now I've got I've got two Reapers, one on each side of this bookshelf. Neither one can reach me, and I'm just dealing damage on it the whole time. Minute 32 rolls around. Both of the original Reapers are still alive. I don't know how much HP these guys have, but you must need like the perfect build to take these guys out. It might not even be possible right now in the game. So minute 32 hits, a third Reaper spawns. That one did not get stuck on a bookshelf and pretty much insta-killed me. But it was very satisfying to be able to manipulate the game like that and get far like that. But if you get further than 32 minutes, please capture it and show me how the hell you did it, because I'm not there yet.
Yeah, because I didn't even know that you could, I thought the Grim Reapers were there as a way of just ending the run once you got past 30 minutes. But
oh, yeah.
It seems like you can last for longer.
No, there's certain builds
with the...
that you can do to last against them.
But we don't usually have breaking news on this podcast. So,
yeah, that was really cool.
3 new achievements, 2 new characters, 1 new special challenge stage that is just like the classic Mad Forest, no changes to the enemies, but comes with a minor new feature that will expand with every new future stage.
Whoa.
So I don't know what that minor new feature is. And there's also a rework of the Mad Forest layout in preparation for a future feature. And the other thing is just soundtrack stuff and new animations for the Mudmen and the Mummies.
Oh, that's cool. That's awesome.
So
it's
they're
cool
still working on it.
Yeah, it's cool to be... I think we're probably going to talk a little bit more about our feelings on early access in a bit, but this is a game that I think does early access perfectly. I think the fact that the asking price is so low helps it a lot, leaps and bounds. And it's kind of nice to be in this early on a game and see it really... It's going to evolve a lot over time. By the time this game gets a full release, I honestly wouldn't be surprised if the asking price for it goes up as well. But,
oh, yeah, definitely, yeah. I think it will. Especially with the popularity.
Oh, yeah, it's booming right now. That's really cool, though. That means I might play another round tonight. That sounds good. Other than that...
there's that.
Yeah. Other than that, So I saw that the Uncharted 4 and The Lost Legacy got a PlayStation 5 release this week, and I was kind of curious about how they were going to handle this with, like, for someone like me who I own both games for PS4, right? So what does that mean for me? Like, do I just... Is it a free upgrade? It's not a free upgrade. I didn't think that they were offering any kind of upgrade path like whatsoever. I thought it's a $50 release, at least here in the States. They're calling it the Legacy of Thieves collection. And I took one look at it and was like, nope, I'm not spending, $50 on these two games that I already own. Oh well. It does turn out, though, that they do have an upgrade path for it. It's a $10 asking price, which I think is pretty fair. So I ended up getting it, and I wanted to kind of experiment with the different modes that they have available now. Uncharted has always kind of been known as the kind of crown jewel of PlayStation graphics, right? Starting from PS3 as a launch title to like really showcase the hardware, all the way to Uncharted 4, kind of pushing the boundaries further than we had seen it at that point. But the original release on PS4, at least on a PS4 Pro, it would run in 1440p. And it was locked to 30 frames per second. This new collection offers a 4K 30 mode, a 2K 60 frames per second mode, and a mode that they're calling Performance Plus, which is a 1080p resolution and 120 frames per second. So I flipped between the three modes available. I played a little bit of Uncharted 4. And I gotta say, man, that is a beautiful game. They didn't tweak a lot with the graphics that much, but the things that they did tweak go a really long way in improving the overall quality. The main thing is draw distance. So obviously, if you're far away from a building, the details on PS4, they load in the closer that you get, but on PS5, it's pretty much fully detailed no matter how far away you are from an object. And it sounds kind of silly. Like, it sounds like it maybe isn't that big of an upgrade, but the amount of detail on the screen at any given moment is like awe-inspiring. It's really, really pretty. That coupled with the kind of remixed audio. Now they have like the 3D audio features and the haptics on the PlayStation DualSense controller. It seems like this is the way you want to experience these games. And you've never played any Uncharted game, right?
No, I've played number 1, but that's
okay. And what did you think of it?
Well, I played number 1 a very long time after it first came out. So I got it was the PS4 collection that they brought out,
right.
Which contained 1, 2, and 3, I believe.
Yes.
But yeah, it was like, okay, like, I get it. It's, I'm not wowed by the graphics because, it's quite an old game by that point. I'm not really wowed by the gameplay because it is kind of just linear, whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do understand that Uncharted is from 2 onwards, it gets much better. Uncharted has never really interested me because in terms of gameplay, I've always seen it as just kind of like a cover shooter kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I haven't been like, oh, I must get the new Uncharted game. Obviously, I haven't played any of them since. And I'm kind of like, if I want to play these ones, like Uncharted 4, I'm going to have to play 2 and 3 first, maybe. But they're kind of...
That's up to you.
They're still quite old at this point.
That's like a do you want the full... Like, it's not necessary. You're not going to be missing any, like, hugely important story beats or anything. Each game is essentially standalone without too much continuity between them. But I totally understand wanting to, experience the whole story for kind of the full effect. And I do think that it kind of gives more weight to Uncharted 4 if you're attached enough to these characters to have gone through all previous 3 adventures.
Yeah, that's what I've heard as well. Like, if you play Uncharted 4, you should really play the others because, the characters and things in there won't make as much sense to you.
Yeah.
And I want to give it, if I am going to play it, I do want to give it.
It's like you said. I mean, as far as gameplay goes, you have kind of you have cover shooting, you have very light exploration until maybe Uncharted 4. The exploration gets a little bit more involved with like some more they tried to incorporate more open world sections into Uncharted 4 and Lost Legacy that I think they work pretty well as far as breaking up the pace of what an Uncharted game is, right? So you got cover shooting, you got light exploration, you've got the climbing, kind of platforming, I guess, if you will, Uncharted's version of it. And then you get the Crash Bandicoot style, like, chase sequences or set pieces that are always, like, you know, explosive action and all that good stuff. But the main thing that you play Uncharted for is the characters and the stories they tell. And in fact, I see a lot of times the most common thing I see, like, thrown against Uncharted is like, why don't I just watch a movie? This is just a movie. And it's like, no, it's not. It is very, very fun to interact with the game, and you feel like you're part of the action. Like, yes, everything is scripted, yes, it's linear, you know, but
I think, like, I do like Uncharted. I liked Uncharted 1, and the fact that I like Uncharted 1, like, people say that, well, you'll really like 2, 3, 4, you know, and onwards, because, you know, 1 is considered to be, you know, where they were sort of finding their feet.
Yeah.
But yeah, I kind of see Uncharted as a whole game as, like, kind of a Call of Duty campaign kind of thing, where, like, you know, when Call of Duty campaigns were still good, you know, where you're kind of, like, attached to the characters kind of thing, and then you go off and do this, like, amazing set piece. You know, it's got the latest and greatest in graphics and things like that, and it's like, okay, like, it's good, it's fine. Like, Call of Duty campaigns, I like Call of Duty campaigns. You know, I'll play them through and I'll enjoy it. But it is, like, kind of one of those things that is just, like, one and done kind of thing. And
yeah,
if I have the choice of playing, like, Uncharted or a Call of Duty campaign or something like, I don't know, something with a bit more game to it, I'm gonna play the thing with a bit more game to it, you know.
Uncharted from, I think, 3 onward, it might have been in 2 as well, they always did include a multiplayer mode, which I mean, I personally found it pretty fun because it is much more of like an arcadey style experience. But nobody's gonna go rush out and buy the newest Uncharted game for the online mode. You're there for the story.
I would probably love the Uncharted multiplayer.
Oh, it's so fun.
If it wasn't, like, you know, considered necessarily a big draw to the game, because every single game that had a multiplayer mode included, which wasn't the big draw of the game, it was like the single player was more of the big draw, whereas Call of Duty, the multiplayer is more of the draw, right?
Yeah.
The every single game that had this tacked on multiplayer mode, I used to love. BioShock 2, did you ever play BioShock 2
yes, I love the online mode.
That was awesome. I played that so much.
It was so good. That's one of my favorites. Uncharted is the same way, where it's like, yeah, you don't expect it to be anything special, but you start playing it and you're like, this is so much fun. This is it turns what you think a multiplayer, you know, shooter style game is on its head. Another one too was, I mean, also from Naughty Dog, the first Last of Us game had a very unique multiplayer mode that I loved.
I never played any of that either. I did play Last of Us, but none of the multiplayer.
It was so good. They had, like, instead of like, you know, with Call of Duty, you're literally just getting XP for winning a battle and then you're increasing your level, but with The Last of Us, you had this camp, right? It was like a meta system between matches. You would just see your camp. It was just represented as like a circle with some tents, and you'd have all these little avatars of survivors, and depending on how well you did, you might, in a multiplayer match, you might have new survivors join your camp. So, and on top of that, you, instead of getting XP for winning a match, you would get supplies. So the more you lost in an online mode, the less supplies you were getting, and then the more people in your camp were getting sick and dying off. And so by playing the game, you're also taking care of this, like, meta camp that it's not super in depth, but it's enough for you to, like, care about it. I think they even
Yeah,
gave
something
all
different.
the characters that were in your camp like names and stuff. So you'd be looking and you're like, oh no, Martha is sick. Like I need to win a game so that I can get medicine for her or whatever.
Not
And
Martha.
not Martha. And I just thought that was really unique. Naughty Dog does
I
a good
remember
job with
seeing.
that.
Yeah, I remember seeing like Last of Us had an online mode, and I was like, I think it was after the campaign. Already played the campaign. I was like, oh god, I can't imagine like using the same kind of movement systems and things that were in Last of Us in a multiplayer match. Like I was like, ugh. So I didn't really bother with it. But then I remember reading an article like what you said about the camp in the background and stuff, and I was like, oh, that's actually really cool. Like an actual something different to add to the multiplayer aspect
Yeah, it was
of a
very
tacked on
unique
multiplayer. You know?
progression system, and
Yeah.
yeah, we say these are these tacked on multiplayer modes, but Naughty Dog did like they put out quality work, and I think those are perfect examples of something like you wouldn't expect it to actually be good, and then you start playing it and you're like, wow, this works so well,
Yeah.
so well.
I think people always have that perception that if somebody like Naughty Dog, who do these incredible single player experiences, if they're going to add a multiplayer to it, then they're taking away resource from actually working on the single player. So then somehow, if they add a multiplayer component to the game, then the single player will suffer because it hasn't got as many people working on it. Where I understand that they do like multiple teams. They have multiple teams. They'll have multiple teams working on the multiplayer, then the single player separately anyway. So it doesn't really matter in effect. But then their resources are still split in a way. So yeah, and obviously too many cooks spoil the broth as well. You know, just throwing more people at a single player game doesn't necessarily. So like I can see where they're coming from, but also it doesn't really make much sense as well at the end of the day. I'm sure there's like a limit point of having a certain number of developers will just like tank a game. Like, you know, you can't just have, oh, we're going to make a game with 10,000 developers and it's going to be amazing. It's like, no, there's probably a limit point where it doesn't benefit any way to have more developers.
Yeah. So that's what I've been playing recently. Is there any other games that you want to touch on that you've been diving into recently?
One thing I do want to mention is that yesterday, and you were there as well, I booted up a bit of Ni no Kuni.
Yes, Ni no
Which,
Kuni.
I don't know how many of you guys remember, but I did Dark Cloud 2 on stream a while back, and that was a fun series until I went about 2 hours into a stream and then accidentally exited it out and didn't save.
It was heartbreaking.
So I was like, oh yeah, we've been spoiled nowadays by autosave and stuff, and I just forgot.
Yeah.
So there was that. But you've always recommended Ni no Kuni to me, and it's on sale at the moment on PSN. So I thought, well, it's about £7, so I was like, may as well pick it up, have a go of it. The best thing about that, I can't comment too much because I paid like an hour of it, but the best thing about that game is that they've got a proper Welsh sidekick, right? and I'm Welsh, and Welsh people don't get any representation in like big video games or anything like that. Yeah, I think the only Welsh person that I remember being in a video game properly, like in a big AAA video game, was what's his name, Edward Kenway from Black Flag, Assassin's Creed 4, right. Black Flag. He was Welsh, and they even had like a little bit in the codex about how they toned down his Welsh accent because it sounds silly. I was like, you bastard. But yeah, this little sidekick fairy, Mr. Drippy, he's called. That's the sidekick to the main character. Yep. He is absolutely hilarious, and it's really weird because this guy who's voicing him, he's quite a big actor in Wales who does it, but there's so many Welshisms to him talking, like the way that the Welsh structure their sentences, like, you know, the little intricacies of the Welsh like way of speaking, they're all there. And there's also bits and pieces of Welsh there as well. He says like boy bach, which means like, you know, darling boy sort of thing. That's awesome. And I'm just like, what the hell is going on? So, you know, it's a Japanese game originally. It's like a Japanese JRPG / kind of like Pokemon like. And you know, these apparently the sidekick in Japan, or Mr. Drippy in Japan, he's got like this very heavy Osaka accent, which I don't know if that's like Japanese version of hillbillies or, you know, a very strong accent or whatever.
Yeah.
But obviously they brought over that line of thinking to the British version, and then somebody, I don't know who, just thought, why don't we make him Welsh? and then they must have had like Welsh people helping with the translation, helping with the script. Obviously, I think the voice actor helped with it as well. And I'm just like, dude, like, this is so cool. Like, he just doesn't like no holds barred on it.
Yeah,
Like,
Mr.
if you,
Drippy is really like, I mean, he's a scene stealer. He really is. Like,
yeah,
you
yeah,
boot up this game, and the main character, he's this little boy named Oliver, and he's very like a timid kind of kid, and and then you have Mr. Drippy pop up, and he's all just boisterous, loud. He's calling the kid a crybaby. He's got all these Welshisms. I'll be honest. The first time I played the game on PS3 when it first released, but I didn't know he was Welsh. I just kind of assumed he was Scottish because I'm ignorant. I don't know any better. I know.
my heart.
It wasn't until last night when I heard your exclamation of joy that there was a Welsh character in this game that
It's so funny
it
though.
hit me.
It's like this character reminds me of like all the people that I've worked with in South Wales, all the people that, in the pubs and stuff that think they know everything. They speak exactly like him. They're like literally, and they're so quick-witted and things like that, just like Mr. Drippy in that game. And I'm just like, this, like, for an American, I know that a lot of Americans don't know anything about Wales, don't know how Welsh people speak, especially in the valleys in South Wales. It's like totally just kind of shut off from the rest of the world, really, in terms of like representation and things.
Right.
So the fact, obviously, you thought he was Scottish and all that sort of stuff, but I reckon that for Americans, he must have been like a really unique character with like the little intricate ways that he speaks. Like,
Yeah.
it must have felt so novel to Americans playing that game. They must have loved Mr. Drippy, I'm sure.
I loved
I'm
him.
sure.
I always loved him, but to watch you play it again last night, and again your reactions to it and the way that you were actually explaining like a lot of the phrases that he was saying and stuff to me, so like I was actually kind of understanding him a little bit more. I think you even asked me like, if there were no subtitles on this game, would you understand Mr. Drippy? And I was like, I don't know, honestly. I played the game with subtitles, but probably
I don't blame
not.
you. I wouldn't blame you, trust me. But
that was
honestly,
great.
right, if you ever manage to make your way to the UK, right, and visit all of us,
Mhm.
right, I will take you to places, right, which are just full of Mr. Drippies. Okay, like literally, we'll go to a pub or something in the valleys, right, and you can just Mr. Drippies everywhere.
Mr. Drippy's
They'll call you Crybaby Bunting.
Crybaby
They'll,
Bunting.
yeah. in it.
Yeah, that was great. I'm excited for you to get deeper into that game too, because I've always said that Ni no Kuni is what I kind of always wanted Pokemon to be. Maybe, there's not like much in the way of like map interaction with the monsters or anything. It's still the same, you can actually see the monsters on the overworld, but you kind of run into them, it goes into a screen transition, and suddenly you're in a battle. But the battles are just done so well, and you're not that far yet. You haven't actually like gotten into the nitty-gritty of the battle system, but I'm excited to check in on your progress on this game in another episode and kind of see how you actually feel about the combat system and what you think, what you kind of hope that maybe one day the Pokemon Company and Game Freak will learn from Ni no Kuni, because I think that there's a lot to learn there.
Especially at the moment with Pokemon, is it Arceus or Arceus?
I think it's Arceus. I think that's how you pronounce it.
That's quite funny, Arce,
Yeah,
that's quite
but
funny.
I say Arceus. That sounds cooler to me. I don't know.
It does, yeah, it does. Yeah, to me it does as well.
So that's what I'm gonna call it.
The fact that
the Pokemon
the fact that
community
that's
kills
out
me.
as well, it's gonna be quite interesting if I play a bit of Ni no Kuni, and obviously I'm seeing quite a lot of Pokemon Arceus now on Twitch and whatnot, and what it's actually like. I think people mostly are saying it's a cross between Pokemon and Monster Hunter. Whereas Ni no Kuni is kind of like if a mainline Pokemon game was given like a lot of budget, and
I want to put an
that's what it
asterisk
seems
on
like.
that, right? Because I still have not started Arceus. Although I do plan on playing it, but I did like look into a little bit of the combat system, and I've watched a couple different people play it on Twitch, and the combat is pretty much lifted, and even the kind of game progression and the way that the world is set up is almost exactly Monster Hunter Stories, which Monster Hunter Stories is Monster Hunter, a lot of the mechanics from Monster Hunter, but in a JRPG format. And yeah, the battle system. I don't know a ton about Monster Hunter Stories because I've never played them. I did watch Tondor play a little bit of one of them. I forget which one. But yeah, the combat is pretty much lifted directly from those games. Monster Hunter, we know, is all about kind of like grueling, long battles with a lot like Dark Souls. When you're using a weapon as a character and you start an animation, you're locked into that animation. So either you're going to land your hit or you're going to whiff and take a big hit from the monster. That's not really how Pokemon Arceus is. It's not like... It is still a turn-based combat system to an extent, although there are more factors at play now probably than ever before, which still raises the interest level for me, at least.
Yeah, I think, if we're going to have a Pokemon game that myself and you are interested in, let's say, this is the way to go about it, I think.
Yeah.
For Pokemon, we've talked a lot in the past about how the mainline Pokemon games don't really do it for us anymore.
Right.
But yeah, it's interesting. I am on the fence about actually just biting the bullet and getting it and just playing it. But I'm still not sure yet. I'll think about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll see. So, what is our actual topic for today?
Yes, so today we are talking about the rise of the living boomer shooter. That's right. It seems as though these 90s era first-person shooter games are kind of making a comeback recently, which I know, like, for me and you, who grew up playing games like Doom, like Turok, Quake, stuff like that, this is a very welcome thing to see in gaming. So I would like to talk a little bit about, first of all, our favorite classic boomer shooters. Maybe even before we get into that, what defines a boomer shooter? Like, what makes a boomer shooter its own style of FPS game? And then I would like to dive into a little bit about the modern boomer shooter market, and also a little bit about the release format of a lot of these games as well, which is probably the one thing that I don't like as much. But first, so at least according to you, what makes a boomer shooter different from other first-person shooter games? Like, what defines a boomer shooter for you? And we're probably going to have the same thoughts on this, because I think we've both played enough of this genre to kind of be able to pinpoint what makes it tick.
I think a boomer shooter for me is what FPS and shooters were when they first hit the gaming scene. So really, with all of its huge popularity, I know it wasn't the first, but when Doom came out in 1993, I think it was 1993, that's a boomer shooter for me. Like, Doom for me is one of the, I would say it's almost a perfect game, because it's just incredible.
Yeah.
So, like, anything that is like Doom is like encapsulates a boomer shooter for me. And those types of systems are kind of what a boomer shooter is, personally. So obviously you've got a very certain style to it, in terms of how the game looks. So obviously they had very primitive textures and the way that the levels could have been designed back then, just because of technical limitations. Obviously we know that Doom isn't really a 3D game. It's a 2D game that tricks you into it being 3D.
Right.
so obviously there was only a certain amount of things they could do with the actual engine, but very simple textures, so you can and with that you can see very clearly what is an enemy, what is a pickup, where you need to go, you know, what the actual geometry looks like. Now, like I think we said a little bit with Into the Pit, like everything has this like kind of, if you have a jungle area, you know, the walls will be absolutely littered, covered with, you know, flora and fauna and all this sort of stuff, and it just makes everything look too complicated. You know,
Yeah.
it's quite hard to actually see what you need to be looking at. So there's a certain way that boomer shooters look for me. They have a maze-like level structure. It's not just linear A to B, which a lot of FPSs do nowadays, which does my absolute head in.
Yeah.
You know, to have a level with multiple pathways, with secrets, with, you know, off the beaten path areas, with, you know, extra pickups and all this sort of stuff. That's really important for a boomer shooter, in my opinion, because it just adds so much. Every level is a bit of an adventure rather than just getting through it A to B, like corridor shooter, as they say. You can hold more than one weapon.
You can hold all the weapons.
Hold more than 2 weapons, as it is nowadays. You can hold every single weapon in the arsenal. Yep. I know that would probably look pretty funny with the character with about 700 guns on him, but that's very important for a boomer shooter, because if you, I know that there's a argument for the tactics of only having 2 weapons, but that means your enemy design is going to be absolutely generic to me. If you have a modern day FPS and you're only allowed to carry 2 weapons, you've got to be able to kill every enemy with any 2 weapons, any 2 weapon combination. Whereas if you've got all of the weapons in your inventory, you can actually vary up your enemy design to not just that one weapon kills one enemy, but one weapon is better to kill one enemy.
To
and Doom
a lot
was very
more,
good at that.
Yeah, it leads to a lot more like experimentation, freedom to be creative with how you approach any given situation. I think that's really important.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, just to labor the point again, is secrets, man. Secrets. Like, hide stuff in your levels. Don't put collectibles in. Everybody hates collectibles. They're not fun secrets, especially when they are just collectibles. If you're going to do collectibles, put a little fun spin on it, or maybe some codex entries. And
one of the most satisfying things that you could probably experience as a gamer is finding a secret in Doom just by chance, you know, just by accident, stumbling on it, and you're just like, oh my god, the big brainness, you know.
And it's I'm sure you've seen, and you've done this yourself, somebody in Doom going up and down the walls, pressing the interact button, and the character going like, just like looking everywhere. Like, everybody's done that, because everybody's like, oh, there must be a secret.
We know that
this wall looks a bit lighter.
I love when you get to the end of a level, right, and you do that, right? Like, let's say you're just like, I'm gonna go for every secret, and you just spend like a whole 15 minutes against every wall. And then you get to the end of the level, and you're like, there's no way I missed anything. And it's like, you missed 5 of the 7 secrets. And you're like, what? There are 5 more? What?
Especially with, like, even the earlier levels in Doom, which are, like, probably, I don't know, well, you can complete them in about 10 seconds if you run from A to B. But, like, you know,
literally,
might be 45 seconds. Yeah, 45 seconds long, maybe, you know, if you run around a bit. But then they got, like, 5 secrets in them. So you spend so long just doing, or like, just looking for secrets everywhere.
Excellent!
Oh my god. Thank you, Easy.
Oh, you got a
HMO. I forgot to turn off my alerts, but thank you so much for that, Easy. I appreciate you.
Easy game.
Oh, no, it's okay. Thank you. That was great. That was perfect. But welcome in, Easy. I enjoyed RKS earlier. We were just talking about that, actually. But back on topic.
So I think one of the more important things about a boomer shooter as well is the actual combat, right? So a lot of the combat in a boomer shooter is positioning, and fast combat as well. So the pace has to be incredibly upbeat. So you think of Doom, if you go into a wide open area, you can circle strafe around the enemy that you're trying to do, which is just basically running around in circles.
Yep.
The enemy will try and hit you if they're not a hit scan type of enemy.
And what is
if they're
hit
trying
scan?
to hit you with a hit scan is where the bullets don't have any time to hit their target. So if they shoot at you, they will shoot you immediately.
Right.
Sort of
if
like
they're
speed of light sort of
their
thing.
cursor is on your character model and they fire, as
Yeah.
soon as they fire, that bullet hits you. There's no travel time.
So a good way to think about it is if you think of Call of Duty, if you're running around with an MP5, no matter where you are in the map, if you shoot a person and hit them with the MP5, that's hit scan because the bullets don't have any velocity. It's just basically you're just putting your cursor over something and it hits every time immediately. But if you have a sniper in Battlefield, for example, the bullets actually have velocity to them. So that's why you get bullet drop and things like that. And it takes a while for the bullets to actually go a distance. So something like rockets in Doom wouldn't be hit scan. They would be, well, just non-hit scan rockets, where you can actually dodge the rockets. So the enemy will be aiming at you when they shoot, and then the rockets have a time to actually reach a certain distance. So by that time, if you're circle strafing and running sideways, strafing in any sort of direction, then the rocket should never hit you. So that's why they say circle strafing. You can just keep running left or right around an enemy and shooting it while it can't shoot you properly.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like the
Excellent.
Let's say, oh, we got another one.
Thank you, Ali. I
Nice.
appreciate that. Such
Nice
lovely
one.
people.
Lovely people coming in here. No.
Oh.
But yeah, so I think that the combat, it needs to be fast paced. It needs to, yeah. I mean, nothing like these cover kind of shooters and that you've seen in the past. Actually, have a health system where you have to pick up med kits. Don't do
Yes,
this
that's
jam on the
something I
face
was
kind
gonna
of
say.
system.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, there's all these kind of things that a lot of people would say, oh, that's just like old, that's just old news, that's the old way of things. But actually, they had a lot of stuff right back then. I mean,
Yeah.
if you've grown up just playing FPSs like Call of Duty, the Battlefield campaigns, things like that, I mean, I feel bad for you because
Yeah, there's
so many
a
games.
whole unexplored market for you. And I agree. I think that like for me, like what makes a boomer shooter is you have the presentation is very important, right? Because I don't consider the like Doom 2016 or Doom Eternal or even the more recent Wolfenstein games, as fun as they are, they're not really boomer shooters to me. Like I think that an important part of the formula is, and there's a lot of things that differentiate those newer games from the older ones in the series, but one of the things for me is the presentation. It's got to look like it came from the era. Like it kind of that doesn't mean that it needs to look crappy. I think that a lot of these games that we're going to be talking about today are beautiful, but they all retain this look of the games of the past. Essentially, I think that's very important.
Because if we look at something like Serious Sam, for example, right, and Serious Sam are still coming out with games today.
Yeah, a new one. Last week?
Yeah, new ones. Yeah, last week Siberian something.
Yeah.
I can't remember. But yeah, I've seen some footage of that game, and they still retain this kind of presentation of a 90s boomer shooter, but they make some of the most beautiful games in the world. They've got very simple geometry, but very, very good decoration. Whereas if you look at Doom 2016 or Doom Eternal, they are like balls to the wall, like this is a space station on Mars, this is a space station in hell, or whatever. Like it's the geometry is very complex, and it hasn't got that same presentation, even though they're very good games.
Yeah, they are. Actually, I wasn't a huge fan of Doom Eternal, but I really like Doom 2016, and I like the newer Wolfenstein games. But we could talk about that. But so presentation is big for me. Gameplay wise, I think there's two main factors at play. You have the combat itself, which is fast paced, very open to experimentation and creativity. And a big factor in it is you do not get regenerating health. Health, are in specific spots throughout the map. I don't even think enemies drop health or ammo or anything like that, right? Like in Doom, I don't think you can kill a big bad guy and he drops a health pack. They are in specific spots in the map.
Yeah.
So that leads into the other part of the gameplay experience, which is exploration. If you're not murdering masses of demons in Doom, then you are completely lost walking through empty hallways full of dead bodies of all the things that you have murdered, trying to look for the next key or trying to look for the next door that the key that you found unlocks. And I would say you might spend as much or more time exploring in a game like Doom or a boomer shooter than you do in the combat itself, where the combat is really the meat of the experience. Most of it is just you looking around, you know?
Do you know how many people, though, right, that I do agree that you do in Doom spend quite a bit of time looking around for where next to go. But do you know the amount of people that played Doom and didn't realize that there was a map that fills out when you go somewhere?
I didn't know that there were people that didn't know that there was a map, because if I didn't know there was a map in Doom, I would have never beaten Doom. I would have still been on level 3, you know? Like that map is it's not a very good map in my opinion.
But the thing is,
helps.
if you know how to read that map, you know, like, you can find secrets through the map. You can find where you need to go quite easily through the map. Like, there's a very specific way that I think the biggest problem for people that the map doesn't show is that when you need to, like, run across, like, a trigger point, which, like, releases or opens a door or brings a lift down or something like that, or where you have to press a switch which does something where you can't quite work out what it does, you know, you got to listen out for it or whatever. But like in terms of where to go and places that you haven't been yet, and like hidden walls and things like that, like the map, if you can read it properly, it's such a good tool.
I've never known that you can. It's kind of like Isaac. Like Isaac, I never knew the kind of, I guess, equation to finding a secret room or a super secret room until you kind of explained it to me. But yeah, like I've never been able to find secrets in Doom because of the map. But although the map will never really show you what your objective is, I always thought it was essential in, like, you know, if you have the blue key, the blue door is blue on the map. So I know I need to go to that, basically. Or if I don't know where to go, and the only thing on my map is a yellow door that I haven't gone through, I know somewhere there's a yellow key that I need to pick up. So but that's really important, that there's like minimal hand holding, and it's more just you and the maze, right? Because that's what they are, mazes. So
they are.
That's always been very, very appealing to me. I like mazes. I like that's why I like things, and we bring this up every episode, but that's why I like things like Dark Souls and Bloodborne, because most of the time you get no map in those games, but it's just you and this like intricate maze of a level that it's up to you to poke into every corner and stuff and find the way forward and find the secrets.
You know my feelings on Dark Souls and stuff, but that is definitely my favorite part of Dark Souls and Bloodborne and the Souls-like games, is the exploration. Is that, I'm in a whole new area now. I don't know where the hell I'm going, but I got 3 different ways to go, let's say, and then like just building that map up in your head. Obviously in Dark Souls you don't even have a map, so it's all like in your head this map that you're building up of the area, and I really like that aspect of it. And that's what the feeling I get in a boomer shooter as well, is that, you know, I could go into Doom 1 right now and I still remember all of those maps in my head. Like I could just go like fly from A to B sort of like all the way through the game,
right?
And that's just because like this game has just been like imprinted in my head, but that's from a lot of like you said, exploring around, like building this mental map up in my head. And like you don't get that, like you can play something like Call of Duty over and over again, like campaigns and stuff, and you probably won't like, apart from the set pieces, you won't remember any of like the connecting corridors and things like that because you don't
Right,
have
they're
to.
just
You know,
hallways. Yeah.
they're just hallways. You won't remember anything in between those set pieces. You'll just remember the set pieces, the big events.
Right. Um, there's so those are the main two, I think, things that make a boomer shooter. You've got exploration, and then you've got the presentation, exploration, and then there's the combat, which as we said, you can get your whole arsenal over the course of a level, or I guess a set of levels. It leads to the ability to experiment, swap between whatever you want. And another big thing is that any enemy can, and it might take longer with certain weapons, but you can kill any enemy with any weapon, right?
Yeah,
And so that means that, okay, I know I'm not going to be doing a lot of damage with whatever the pistol, let's say, but I can at least chip down and then switch to like a heavier hitting gun and play my way. Whereas something like Doom, especially Doom Eternal, right? Doom Eternal, you need to do very specific things in order to kill the enemies, and that really rubbed me the wrong way. Like,
I think the thing is, the original Doom, like if you get into like the sort of, I don't want to really sound like I'm being wanky, but like the high level play of like Doom, where like people do these really big maps, right, which are like just full of thousands of enemies, and the ammo is very, very scarce. So they have to be very careful in how they kill a certain horde of enemy or a certain type of enemy with what they use. So like a lot of these people who play these games, they say the pinkies, right, which are a melee enemy, which they look like the pig kind of bull things,
right,
and they run at you and try and bite you. Well, they'll take out their fists for that.
Ooh.
Because they know that if they hit the pinky in the face in a certain rhythm, the pinky can never actually bite them. So it's like, it's this kind of decision making that goes on all the time in Doom. If you've got a chain gunner, for example, who it has a hit scan chain gun that will absolutely just rip you to shreds in 2 seconds. Well, if you use the chain gun against them, it interrupts their attack. But if you use something like the pistol or a shotgun, there is enough time in between those shots for the chain gunner to start shooting you again. So it's like all of these specific things that you can do to min-max like your kind of gameplay.
Right.
And like in Doom Eternal, they kind of went for that again, maybe a bit too extreme, because I remember like the spider bot things, the spider masterminds or whatever, would have like a gun on top of their head,
that
which
you could shoot off, basically.
Yeah, you could shoot off with the like
sniper
scope attachment that you'd get for your machine gun or whatever.
Right.
And that's fine. Like that's the best way to kill them, and all the enemies had this like best way to kill them. I think the
pinkies you had to like get between them or behind them, right? Because they had like an armored face in that one. So
yeah. And the Kako demons, you could like launch grenades into their mouth and they'd eat them. And so like you could, exactly the same as the original Doom, you could kill everything in Doom Eternal with any gun. But there were specific guns that did that were better suited for a certain engagement. And that's like they went a bit extreme with it because they were quite on the nose with what you needed to do.
Yeah.
Whereas Doom was kind of like, it was all worked out by the community about which ones were best.
Yeah. Doom Eternal would go as far as like pausing gameplay to bring up a tutorial to say, hey, did you know that like this is the weak point on this enemy? Like nudge, nudge, shove, shove. And it's like, oh no, I don't want to use that gun, like, I don't know. That's how I felt.
Doing the thing. They're doing the thing that they took the piss out of in Doom 2016,
Yeah.
Where like at the start of Doom 2016, it was like a small cutscene, and then the guy on a monitor would be telling you what to do, and he just punches and smashes the monitor,
right?
Because he's like,
I'm not listening to
this is Doom. I'm not listening to your story, sort of thing. And then you go off and start shooting stuff. But Doom Eternal, like, I really liked the game at the end of the game in the second half, and I thought it was like one of the best Doom games ever, because you get to a point where you know everything, you got the full arsenal, you know exactly what you've got to do, and then it's like this kind of like dance almost with the enemies in the arenas that you're like switching out different weapons on the fly, you're making decisions constantly, and I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
okay, this is Doom again.
The
This is
flow
what
gets
Doom was all about.
pretty interesting by the end of it when you have access to everything, and
But you have a lot. You
have a lot, and there. Oh man, I mean, you have too much almost, in my opinion, between like the two different shoulder grenades. You have the friggin' the chainsaw now, the flame. Yeah, like just there's so much stuff now, and
they're not like
overwhelming.
weapons either, are they? They're like
no, they're like attachments.
Abilities,
yeah,
like attachments that do different things. Like I've really liked the design of the new Doom games because I remember when I saw the trailer for it, and they were doing these glory kills where basically you take an enemy down to a certain amount of health, and then you can press a button which does like an automatic melee kind of kill, and it's like it's balls to the wall, gory and stupid and like out there, but
and cartoony too. It's like gory in a very cartoony way. Yeah,
I mean, you like twist the imp's head all the way around like 360 degrees or something, and then his like tongue is sticking out, sort of thing. It's like quite cartoony in that sense. But when I first saw that, I was like, oh no, what are they doing to my Doom? Like, that would be horrible. But what they did was they did it in such a way where they changed like the whole design of like
the
modern FPSs, where they literally, if you run out of health or you're running out of health in Call of Duty, what do? You go and sit behind a box or sit behind some cover and wait for your health to regenerate.
Right.
Which is time that you're doing nothing. In Doom, they say, right, if you do a glory kill while you're low on health, you'll get health pickups out of it.
Exactly.
So now, instead of oh shit, I'm low on health, I need to like jump into the middle of all these zombies and monsters, and I need to like absolutely kick the shit out of them to get more health.
It works. So, like, it works really well in 2016 because I think that's like that's kind of the main focus is like or the main thing in the gameplay loop is go balls to the wall. Oh, you're low on health. Well, you better get a glory kill because that'll top your health back up. In Doom Eternal, though, they add so much more to the equation where, like, okay, yes, I need health. Let me do a glory kill. Oh, no, I need armor. The only way to get armor is to use the flamethrower. So I'm going to set this guy on fire and get okay, I need ammo. Well, the only way to get ammo is to fucking use the chainsaw, right? So depending on what you need, you're right, it's like a dance, but it's a very frantic dance. And
it's for me it was kind of like it was borderline for me as well, like, because I like a game with a lot of systems that I can like really sink my teeth into and like really get used to. So the fact that like Doom 2016 I loved the whole thing about getting in there. I think it had the chainsaw and the glory kills to get your health back. And then Doom Eternal added in the extra one with the flamethrower and the armor, which doesn't really make sense. It's not really like intuitive to do that, but
it's just another thing.
After a while.
Yeah.
But where Doom Eternal excels is that when you've done all of that stuff, when you've learnt it all of every single system, every single weapon, when you go into those, I don't know if you went into many of them in the game, but they're like kind of like big arenas.
Yeah, the arena battles. Yep.
Yeah, was it something to do with like the hearts or something? You'd pull out a piece of like heart or something. You could go through a portal. Or something?
There's two different ones. There's those which were kind of built into the story as just kind of like little horde arena sections, but then there were you'd have to find a key portal, throughout the level. Usually the key was at like the end of the level, and then towards somewhere in the middle or the beginning, you would have found a locked like gate. So then you have to go and backtrack with the key, and you unlock it, and it unlocks these like special arenas that are kind of like even harder than any of the stuff in the stage.
Yeah, so they're like the hardest kind of content, I'd say, in the whole game.
Right.
Besides from like a nightmare run or something, if you like. But yeah, you go in there, and it's like probably, I would say, a medium-sized kind of arena, depending on which one you go into, and it's just enemies start coming in, and they will always have the same waves of enemies. If you die and come back to it, you'll encounter the same enemies again, but they'll come in at different times and whatnot. And it's just like I said before, like this dance where it's like you're flipping around all over the map. You can like jump off poles and stuff. Do,
Yeah,
like,
they added a
swing off
lot more
poles
like Mario
um,
platforming elements into
yeah.
Doom Eternal. I almost think of
But like,
those battles like a puzzle almost, because you're right, it's like the same waves every time, and there is an optimal way to approach these battles, right? Because every enemy has certain weaknesses, or special takedowns and stuff like that. So if you can memorize the waves, you can use the correct weapons with the correct attachments to not necessarily breeze through it, but get through that
yeah, I
challenge
suppose you could,
optimally.
like, because it's the same every time, you could eventually memorize it, I suppose. But like for me, it was like it took me back to those like days when I used to download user-made levels from Doom, and they were supposed to be like the hardest levels in Doom. Like if you can do these, like you'll be able to do any level. And it's like it took me back to those days because it was like constantly like your mind is ticking away, like, okay, right, so this enemy's in front of me, there's loads of these other enemies behind that, so if I switch to this weapon and use this attachment, I can hit him, and then switch this other weapon and hit them. Oh no, I'm low on health, so I need to glory kill someone. Oh no, I'm low on armor, I need to do this. I've run out of ammo, I need to. So like it's like constantly your brain is just like ticking away. It's just like you can't think of anything else other than this game when you're playing it.
Yeah.
And that's what I really liked about Doom Eternal, is that it invoked all of that kind of like nostalgia for me.
Oh, good. Yeah, I think that the modern kind of id games, they do things well, they do things not as well sometimes, but most of the time it's that fast breakneck speed of the games that really stick out. But going back now into kind of the 90s, right? When these games were really booming, what are some of the games besides Doom that kind of stuck with you and defined this genre for me? I know that there's a couple for me, but I'm curious to know which other ones besides Doom like really did it for you.
Well, Doom was like 1993, then it was like Doom 2. There was all the WODs and things going around, so I played Doom a lot as a kid. But then I think there was one called Strife.
Strife, yeah, that one. I actually played some of that, because I think it got a remaster from Night Dive Studios.
It did, yeah.
And
it's on Steam, yeah.
Yeah, and I grabbed it, and that one was interesting because it also is a bit of an RPG as well. There's like NPCs that you can talk to, quests, hubs, things like that. I found that game very interesting.
And this was all when the Doom engine was still the prevalent kind of first person shooter engine that was that you'd have to. So all these Doom likes and things that would come out, it would just be like absolute crap. That were using the same engine, but they didn't have the same design philosophies and things. They didn't know what made Doom great.
Yeah.
But Strife was a really good one. I remember that. Lots of Doom WODs and Doom total conversions and things that would like. I think there was an Alien one that I played, which was really good. But yeah, loads of like kind of movie tie-in ones as well, which I really enjoyed. I remember when Final Doom came out with. There used to be groups of people, like groups of developers, homebrew developers that would make like big Doom WODs, like 32 level, like expansion packs, and would just release them on the internet for free. I remember Final Doom came out, which was like a bundle of Evolution and what was the other one called? Like Plutonia Experiment. That was it.
Yeah.
Which were like supposed to be the hardest levels in Doom at the time, which turns out that they were actually not the hardest levels in Doom at all.
If you get at least on Switch, I own Doom 1 and 2 on Switch, and they include all that stuff in there. That's all in there.
Yeah. It's I haven't got it for Switch because I'm not too hot on the controller for these types of games, but I do have all of the
way.
Yeah, I have them all on Steam, and I have the source ports as well. So they brought out like modern kind of source ports for Doom, so you can download a source port, and then you put WADs into it, which you can download from the internet for free. You need to have a Doom 1 or Doom 2 WAD, which you get directly from purchasing the game on Steam. It's in your files. You just copy that over as well. And they've got like loads of cool like improvements to the game, so making it properly 3D. It doesn't like you can look up and down and things.
Whoa.
It's really cool. Yeah, I know. Look up and down.
Oh my
Who would have thought
God.
it?
So one thing I love about Doom actually is that you don't have to worry about looking up or down. You just shoot in front of you, and you're gonna hit.
Well,
the thing.
yeah, that's the thing. But then sometimes, like, do you know when an elevator would go down?
Oh,
You
yeah.
can't look down,
Right.
But then an enemy would come onto it, and for like, Doom had this really weird way of doing height. So there was no actual height in the game, which meant that a floor couldn't. The game couldn't have floors on top of each other. So, like, if you look at any Doom map, there won't be a floor that intersects with another one. Like, if you can go up some stairs or whatever, but they don't do height properly. So, say if a Pinky was in this elevator and I was standing on the ledge above, and he was like looking at the wall below, he could bite me because the game thinks that the game thinks that you're on the same level, even though your perspective is that you're just looking at a wall like upstairs.
Yeah.
So that was the thing, like with Doom sometimes was that like it's like I'm trying to go into this lift that's just dropped down, but I keep getting hurt. Like what the hell is going on? And it's because there's a Pinky down there biting at your ankles, even though he's like miles downstairs. So there was all these like weird intricacies with Doom, which have kind of been ironed out with modern source ports, and people have done clever things as a result of that. But the big one for me, I think, was that sort of took it to the next step was Duke Nukem 3D.
Oh yeah.
Which I was just absolutely obsessed with Duke Nukem 3D, like with the fact that it was a new engine, it was a build engine that they came out with for it, and it was much better in what it did. You could have like so much verticality in it. I know Tondo would like that.
Verticality?
Yeah, like
Oh
I mean,
my
I think in the first level you drop like off a massive skyscraper in the first 5 seconds.
Right.
And it's like, whoa, Jesus, like what the hell? Like this game has some verticality to it. You can look up and down. You can
Flush
there's
the
floors
toilet.
on top of floors. You can So this is the thing, right? Is that this is a big thing about boomer shooters as well, is the fact that you can interact with stuff. Interacting with stuff is like just feels so cool, and it gave some like kind of it made Duke Nukem and the cities and the levels feel like they've been lived in.
Yeah.
Like the first level, which was like a cinema, but like outside and everything, it had this like sound to it, had like everything you could interact with. You could go up to the toilets and have a piss. You could shoot the toilet, so you burst a pipe in there, the water would come up and you could drink it. You could drink it, you could turn the lights on and off.
Oh,
yeah.
How about the
and
mirrors
everything.
too? You could actually
Mirrors,
see yourself in the mirror moving around.
Yeah, they had proper mirrors. And that made you as well just feel like, oh, I need to try and interact with everything, because sometimes you'd interact with like a hand dryer or a shopping till or something like that, which would open up a secret somewhere.
Yeah.
So it was just like, I need to check everything. And, sometimes it would be nothing, you'd press on a phone and it would just go like beep, beep, beep. But sometimes you'd press on it and it would give you those beeps, but also it would give you some, like atomic health or something like that. So that was like, as soon as Duke Nukem came out, and again, they would have the custom levels on the internet for it. They would bring out like all of the crazy kind of Duke Nukem likes then on the build engine, like Blood and Shadow Warrior. And what was the other build engine one that was really popular? There was Blood.
Was it Hexen?
Shadow Warrior. No, that was a Doom one. That was
okay.
Doom, but with magic and stuff.
I love
Rise of the Triad as well. That was good. So yeah, like Doom was like Doom was like the granddaddy, and then the Duke was like the daddy.
Nice.
He was like the young guy coming in and being like, yeah, you're old school now, but
He's
this
there
is
to
what
kick ass
this is
and
what
chew
first
bubble
person
gum.
shoot. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Y'all out of gum.
Yeah, I also loved Duke Nukem. I had that on N64 and experienced a lot of the same feelings, like, oh my god, I can flush the toilet. Oh my god, I can see myself in the mirror.
You would have had the second level with the Duke Burger then.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was never the level. That was it was the red light district before.
Oh.
That was like an area where you could like go into like the wank booths and stuff.
I did eventually play that version as well, and I remember being
Yeah.
like, "This is not what I remember," you know?
But Duke Burger's awesome, man. Like Duke Burger, like I remember that second level with the Duke Burger in, and it was like so cool to just walk around like this big burger joint when
Yeah,
you could go into the back with the like fryers and stuff, and you could like crouch in the fryers, and then it would like hurt you, like
yeah.
damage your health and
Mm.
stuff. Yeah.
Hear the little sizzle noise. Yeah, there was Duke Nukem. I actually really liked Hexen. So a lot of these games I played on N64. I didn't really play a lot of these games on PC, which kind of sucks. So, like I had played, I think, a little bit of Wolfenstein 3D and Doom at a friend's house. But for me, it was Hexen, and Hexen on N64. So Hexen is essentially Doom, but yeah, it's in like a dark fantasy setting. You don't really get guns. There's character classes, so there were like 3 different characters you could pick between, and each one had a different kind of weapon and way to kind of power up and stuff. But Hexen 64 in particular is the only version of it that had multiplayer, and me and my buddies would have a grand old time playing that. So Hexen was big for me. Duke Nukem. And I never really played Quake much either. How did you feel about Quake? Because I think at the time when it came out, I really liked the kind of like sprites that they would use for enemies and stuff. And Quake obviously was the first one that I think the first one, right, that went like full 3D with it, like 3D.
Yeah, that was a
models
problem
and
for me. Because you needed like a graphics card with like 3D FX or whatever. Like it was a proper like dedicated graphics card game, which I don't think we had for years. So like I sort of transitioned to like you said, Nintendo 64 at that point. You know, PS1. Like Doom and Duke Nukem were like PC for me, and then like I kind of got those games as well on PS1, Nintendo 64. I can't remember there being like a PS1 Quake or anything. There probably was.
I don't know. I when I first like really actually learned about Quake was whichever one came out on 360. It was like a launch game for 360. Was that Quake 4?
Quake 4, yeah, that I remember that one because they had a set piece in it. I literally don't remember anything about the game, but I remember what the main villains called in it. They're like called as like Splorg.
I don't
or
know.
something.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Something like that. And then they would turn you into one of the aliens, but you'd be on this conveyor belt with loads of other humans, and ahead of you can see what's about to happen to you, and you're like sat in this like kind of restrained like chair thing, and it's pulling you along on this conveyor belt, and you can see the guy in front of you, and he just gets like this big saw comes down and just chops his legs off. And like he's like screaming in front of you, and you're like, oh, like something's gonna happen now, where you know, like somebody's gonna save me or something. One of the other characters, and then it's your turn. You go forward. But this saw comes down, just chops your legs off, and all you can see are your little stump legs, like just like waving about as he's like writhing around in pain. And then you see the guy in front, his arms come off, and then your arms come off, and you're like, what the hell? Like, what am I supposed to do now? I can't even carry a gun or run around. But they turn you into one of these aliens then, and then somebody saves you just before you get to like the kind of brain rewiring center or whatever. So you're like one of the enemies, but you're like you've retained your brain, you know?
Yeah, that's interesting to me. That actually makes me think. Was it? It must have been Wolfenstein, the New Colossus, the second one in like the modern installations, where in like the opening hour of the game you get your head cut off, right? Is that one?
I don't think that's not the first hour though. That came like pretty late on in the game.
Really?
Yeah, it did, yeah.
I thought that was like right at the beginning where you're
No.
Oh,
no.
Okay.
It's a bit of a spoiler as well. It's a spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert, yeah.
Yeah. There's because they're talking about the whole execution and stuff, aren't they? They capture BJ Blazkowicz. But this is after you've done like the whole bit at the beginning with the big ship. where you know
Do you
you
start
go
the
into
game
like
in? Is that you start that one in a wheelchair too, right? Isn't
yes,
that
you do. Yeah.
okay?
So you're in the big hideout ship. It gets attacked by the Nazis, and then you go to that place in is it New York? I can't remember, but you find the woman, the resistance woman with the baby.
Yeah.
And they come back to the thing, and then you do like loads of stuff where you have to shoot yourself out of a torpedo in the submarine and all this sort of stuff, and then you have all the flashback stuff to when you were a kid.
Okay.
Like it's quite late on. Like I was quite surprised with how late on it was because when that happened, I was like, "Holy shit! Like what's gonna happen now?"
I remember. Yeah. I thought it was early in the game because I remember thinking like, wow, that was sudden, and then, you know, other stuff happens that I guess I won't really. I'm not gonna spoil it. I don't really consider that part, I guess, a huge spoiler because there's so much that happens after. But
I think it is
reminds
because
me
it's a shocking situation, which like it shocked me. Like I'm glad I didn't get spoiled with it because I was like, oh okay, so you know, there's this public execution. It's the main character of all these games like that have come out since 1992 or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's like he's not gonna die. Like the resistance are gonna come in, and then it's just chop his head off, and his head like rolls down into like this thing, and you're like, what the freaking hell's going on?
But yeah,
Wolfenstein's wacky.
So because I didn't get to play like a lot of these games on PC, Quake, you know, Doom and Wolfenstein, I only got to play a little bit. The game that stood out the most to me as a kid, and actually is still one of my favorites to this day because they re-released it, is Doom 64. And I'll always remember, I think I had rented it and I was playing it, and so I can't remember who it was. Someone came in.
It's the real Doom 3.
Yeah, someone came in and was watching me play, and I was like, "Oh yeah, this is Doom 64." And their response was like, "This isn't Doom." And I was like, "What do you mean?" And they're like, "This is completely different from Doom." And I guess they thought that it was like supposed to be Doom for Nintendo 64, right? So the same game just on, but no, it's like its own, exactly
completely
like
different
you said,
game.
It's Doom 3 essentially, and I love that game. When they released Doom Eternal, they remastered Doom 64 as well. And I think they came to get, like, if you bought Doom Eternal, I'm pretty sure it came with Doom 64 for free. And I got Doom Eternal on Steam, and I probably didn't play it for almost a month after release because I was playing Doom 64 again. And I love that game. I love it.
Did you manage to get the full upgrades for the what's it called? The big weapon, like after the BFG? It was like a unique weapon.
In Doom 64, it's like that weird
it's like a laser
gun. I think I did get that, yeah, because I remember using it. It's just, it's like, they have that
Unmaker,
the Unmaker, yeah, and they have that in the new games as well. I think that's what you get. Is that what you get for beating all those lock challenge like arenas in Eternal? You get something like that.
I can't remember, but I remember in Doom 64 that you would you'd get the weapon quite early on through like a secret challenge, but then you had to do like 3 more challenges to get its like potential. And basically with it, you could kill a cyber demon in like 3 seconds with it. It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like you could just smash through all of the levels with it, and just with this, like, it was like 4 lasers that came out in a row when you fully upgraded.
Oh man, it was so good. We've touched on most of the boomer shooters that I grew up with. The only one I haven't mentioned is Turok, which also played a huge role in me gaming at that era. That might have been the first person shooter that like I really got into. Between the ridiculous animations, like when you would shoot someone in the neck and like they'd grab their neck and like blood spurt and stuff. It was ultra violent, but like so cool at the time. The weapons, where like, you know, one of the weapons in Turok was like a literal nuke. You would shoot it and the entire screen would like go white and orange, and it would just screen wipe absolutely everything on the screen. To even like you had a bow and arrow, but you eventually got explosive arrows. So now suddenly you're shooting at people and like their bodies are flying and stuff. I love that game. Plus, it had dinosaurs in it. That had a huge influence on what I look for in first person shooters even now.
Yeah, like Turok, I never really got into Turok 1. I don't know what it was. I for some reason I don't know if it was like the Nintendo 64 and like the low kind of, because if you think like coming off Doom on the PC and Duke Nukem on the PC, and then you've got like this draw distance which is just absolutely awful on Turok, where like it's literally you can't even see like 30 feet in front of you.
Yeah, it's horrible. Yeah.
And it's the Nintendo 64, so like you understand that. But I'm like, why is there this fog everywhere? I just couldn't understand it as a kid, and I like kind of put it down very quickly. And I was like, oh, this is just like a dinosaur hunter game or whatever. I didn't really get into it. But then I got the Turok 2, Seeds of Evil,
which I've never played.
From oh man, honestly, like that game blew my mind.
I own it.
They got rid of the yeah. You need to play it because like the game totally like it gets rid of the wide open areas. I think they managed to like increase the draw distance because that is still pretty bad. It's probably not in the remastered version that you've got on Switch. But that game was like friggin' like so good to play. Like you said, like weird weapons like the cerebral ball that would like just burrow its way into the enemy's head, and then all this like his brain would get turned to liquid and then would spew out and stuff. And I'm like Jesus, this is a Nintendo game. Like what is going on? But it just felt like having like such a cool violent like first person shooter. The only thing about it is that it is like probably one of the hardest FPSs I've ever played. Not the actual combat, but the where to go.
It's very easy to get lost in Turok too. I think that's like a common just a common gripe against that game. So Night Dive, which we brought up before for remastering Strife, that's kind of their thing, is they remaster a lot of older gems, a lot of boomer shooters, a lot of other maybe forgotten but you know pretty good games. So when they remastered Turok for Nintendo, they remastered it for everything, but I got it on Nintendo Switch because it just felt like coming home. You know, I played Turok on N64, so I wanted to have it on a Nintendo console again. But they also released Turok 2 around not too long after Turok 1, so it is in my library, and I do intend on playing it at some point. I did replay Turok not very long ago, probably maybe like 2 years ago. I replayed through the whole thing, and as a kid, I don't know about you, I never beat Turok.
No,
unless I use cheat codes.
Yeah.
So... like the cheat codes would make it into a whole new game. You got every weapon, you got unlimited ammo, you could do God mode, you could also do big heads. It was just, you know, and you could unlock every level.
I remember the cheat off by heart still to this day for Turok 2.
Oh, for what is it?
Beware, oblivion is at hand, all one word.
Ooh.
I still remember it. I don't know why. Like I played that game so much.
It's a cool cheat code.
It is cool. And that would give you everything, like you said, like all of those like funny cheats and like really utilization cheats and like God mode and stuff. But like the thing that made Turok 2 so hard to navigate is that you'd have this big, like imagine like the first episode of Doom, right, which is like what 11 levels or something, 10 levels. Imagine those 10 levels, which all strung together, all like dotted around in like probably like a big square kind of shape, and then but interconnect them all together, right? So and then give objectives with portals that go each there
anywhere,
everywhere, and give objectives which are like activate 4 beacons, save 4 children, defeat 4 like special monsters, and then dot them round randomly everywhere, right? And then when you want to, or when you get to the end of the level, you have a tower defense thing where you have to protect this like huge beacon.
Oh my!
But you can't get there without doing all of these things first, right? So you can literally start of the level, go all the way through this maze, right? Some parts go a bit linear, some places open up again. You can come around. You play it all the way, all the way through, and then you come out by the start area again,
Oh,
right? And you're like,
yeah.
wait, what?
That
I was
happens
here,
in
like,
Turok 1 as well. Yeah.
yeah. And it was like, I was here 45 minutes ago. And then you look at your objectives, and you've done 2 out of 3 beacons. You've done 2 out of 4 children. You've done 2 out of 4 special thing. And then you're like, where the hell are they? Like, what?
Yeah.
Like, so you spend all this time looking through the level. And it's so funny, right? That when I played the remaster of Turok 2, I played the first level and I was like, I'm going to do it. And I had the exact same experience as when I was a kid. I came back round to the start. I had 2 out of 4 of everything or whatever. And then I thought, sod this, right? I'm a big boy now. I'm going to go around and like try and get to the end. And when I played that remaster on PC was the first time I completed the first level of Turok 2.
Oh, wow.
That was the first time ever.
Wow. See, that's the same with me with Turok 1. I mean, I had always just... I would always start with level 1, and then as a kid, just get lost and not know what I was supposed to do, and eventually I would resort to the cheat codes and unlock all the levels, and then you could just pick a level and go to it and fuck around in it, whatever. So when I played Turok the remaster, I played it with the intention of, properly playing through the game, and I was amazed at how well designed the levels are, where it's like, you have a hub in Turok with like 7 or 8 different portals, and each one takes, I think, between like 3 and 5 keys to unlock it, to like open up that level. But you might find like, okay, so level 1 is obviously gonna have all the keys to level 2, but it also might have a key for level 3. So then you're in level 4 and you're getting keys for level 7, and you're just like, wait, what? It's really like really intricately designed, where there is a lot of it's not a Metroidvania, you're not getting new abilities to reach new areas or anything, no. But it is very much like a just huge like weaving maze where you're gonna have to backtrack in order to progress. And I just think it is confusing, but it is excellent level design. And from what I understand as well, in the Turok 2 remaster, I do remember reading that Night Dive made it a little bit easier to figure out where you were supposed to be going and like what you were supposed to be doing. Is that true? Yeah.
Well, I don't know really, because because I never got to the end of a level.
Oh, right.
So what I do is in Turok 2, I had access to all of the levels, but because I had a level select cheat, I basically had all the cheats. So I had level select. I had all keys. All of those keys that you talked about were already in my inventory at the beginning, so I could literally go to the hub world and go to any level I wanted to. So I would. The main thing about it is that if I played the first level from start to finish as a kid, I would never finish it. I never got to the tower defense area to finish the level, and even when I was an adult, I still struggled to know where to go. It might have been easier because I actually got to the end, of the first level, but still, I did that whole loop and then came back round to maybe 5 objectives outstanding or whatever.
Right. So
it's pretty interesting actually, because I've got a tier list here that people have put together of boomer shooters.
Really? Are we talking like including the moderns, or are we talking like just the classics here?
Well, it's got some modern ones in as well.
Okay.
So it might spur us to they've got them all in here, and it's not very long.
Okay.
But it may give us some pointers to what to talk about.
Yeah, well, I do want to talk about. I want to shift into the modern boomer shooter era now, because there are.
Should we have a quick wee?
Yeah. We'll take a little break, and then when we come back, we'll talk about some of the games in this genre that stand out to us that are fairly new releases, and there's quite a bit of them. So yeah. We'll do that.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. I'm going to put that BRB screen up. There you go. There you go. And we
Cool.
will be back soon. Well, I'm still here, but I will. Let's see. I have this playlist open. It says Doom Lo-Fi to rip and tear until it's done to. Quite an interesting name for a playlist, but why don't we jam to this while we wait for Zubby. Hello.
Hello. How's it going?
Good. How was your bathroom break? Was it wonderful?
It was wonderful.
Boom.
Drained the vein, as they say.
The main one? The main vein?
One.
Whoa.
The main one.
Wow.
Ugh.
Wow. All right. Well, so we have now talked about what is a boomer shooter. What does it mean to us? What are the games that we grew up playing and falling in love with? But the genre has not died out. No. In fact, the complete opposite. I feel like lately there's been a big resurgence in the genre, and I think that a lot of the games that try to aim for this style nail it, surprisingly. There's quite a few that I've picked up, and there's a bit of a gripe that I have that I think I want to touch on at the very end in how these games have been released, but it makes kind of sense, but not too much. We'll get to that in a second. The first thing I want to bring up, though, and before we get into the tier list, for me personally, the absolute kings, okay, the kings of the modern boomer shooter, every FPS game that they've released that I've played, and there's 3 of them that I've played, has been amazing. But New Blood Interactive, okay, they've made 3 games that you can get actually bundled together on Steam. It's being titled the New Blood FPS Trilogy, okay, and all 3 of these games are beautiful love letters to boomer shooters of the past, and all 3 of them are very unique and excellent. But my favorite of the 3, personally, is the game Dusk. Did you play Dusk?
I did, and I played a lot of it, and I loved it.
I loved it. Dusk is, you play as a character. It's like it's weird. It's like you're hunting cultists, I think, is kind of the theme of the game. and I don't know if you're trying to stop some sort of ritual that they've already like kind of begun, that's already underway. But things just get crazier and crazier the more you play the game. It gets very cosmic. It gets very like Lovecraftian. The enemy designs are spooky, and the whole aesthetic of the game again is very retro, very Quakey, I would say.
Yeah.
And God, I love that game. Tell me a little bit about your experience playing Dusk.
Yeah, I mean, when I saw it first, the trailers for it, I was like, "What the like? This is a '90s boomer shooter that I've never seen or heard of before. Like,
Yeah.
is this a remaster or something of an old game?" And then I saw like release was like, no, it's a completely new reimagining, revamp of the '90s boomer shooter genre. It was like you said, like the first levels I think that they showed only was like set in this like really grim, dark Midwestern farm kind of thing, you know, which like really, really spooky looking, really balls to the wall mental as well in terms of like, I don't know if you've tried, but if you jump and press the reload key, or I think it might have been another button, but you could do a backflip and a front flip.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I'm like, well, okay, this is strange. If you press reload while you have a full magazine, you do like a flip animation with your weapon as well. So as you're running around, you're flipping your weapon, you're doing back flips, front flips. It's making you feel sick. You're going around like just absolutely smashing these
they have
very,
like
very weird and
certain
creepy
levels have
array.
like bouncy pads in them, right? Because
Yeah.
eventually there are like you get a nice mix in Dusk of like the maze levels, and then there's a lot of like arenas as well. Like it'll funnel you through a maze, and then you end up in like a big arena with like you know, just enemies everywhere, bounce pads that you can fly off of. But yeah, if you're bouncing on the bounce pad and you're suddenly like doing back flips and front flips and
I was literally like playing it like bleh, bleh. But you don't have to do that, or
No,
you can play the whole game without doing a front flip or a back flip. I don't know why they include it, but it's awesome. But the game, like you said, has a mix of like Serious Sam with like big arenas with loads of enemies. It's got the Doom kind of maze-like structure to a lot of the levels. But there's nothing I can do or say to kind of explain how weird this game gets in the later levels. Like, it really goes mad with its level design.
A testament to it's all about the level design. I mean, they do things where, you know, there will be, you walk into a room that is just full, all four walls and the floor is just covered in other doors, and I think each door opens to like, some of them you might open and it's just like an enemy that kills you in one hit behind it, and it's like, okay, I'm not gonna open that door next time. They've got like the twisting hallways and like it's just very bizarre. It's very like the levels themselves start to get in your head and you know, make you feel uncomfortable and
there was
lost.
a level, I think later on, I think it was in Dusk, like sometimes these New Blood games like sort of like meld together for me, but it was a level where like it was kind of like a town, like a suburb area, but like all of the earth had been like sort of lifted up into, and they were floating around these platforms with like a garage on and all this,
and you could change the gravity, right?
Yeah, you could change the gravity. So you were like, you know, standing on a platform, but then you could change the gravity, and then you go hurtling inside of a garage at the like kind of a vertical angle. So you're like walking on the wall of a garage inside, then you change it again to go another way. And I was just like, this is blowing my mind. Like, you know, the designers must have been like, okay, the first episode is going to be like a really good, like just nighty shooter, just, you know, grounded but spooky and all this good stuff. And then they're like, right, episode 2 is just going to be, just a different mechanic for every level, shall we? Okay, let's just do that. And like, I honestly, if you like any 90s boomer shooters, like, you've got to play Dust, because for me, like, and I haven't had that feeling in a long time, you know, when you play a shooter and you're like, okay, I've done a few levels now, I'll leave that and do something else, or leave it for tomorrow or whatever. Like, Dusk was just like, I've got to see what the next level is all about. Like, it happened every single level. It was crazy. I just loved it.
Yeah, a lot of times with these games, I'll find myself Like with Turok, for example, by the time I would beat a level in Turok, I needed a break. I needed to do something else. But with Dusk, I was actively like, I need to see what they came up with next, you know? Like, and some of the levels definitely take you longer to get through than other ones. But just the design is constantly just throwing you a curveball.
Even Doom or Duke Nukem, you know, if you have a real big level that, you know, takes you a good half an hour, 45 minutes or something, then afterwards you're just like, oh, okay, right,
It's time for a breather.
I don't want to get into another one of them now.
Yeah.
But Dust seemed to, like, no level like overstayed its welcome kind of thing. And it was you know, it was just like oh my god, these last 3 levels have just been so different from each other. The settings, you know, it's been psychedelic almost. Like,
yeah.
it just, I want to see what the next one is all about, and then you just get lost in it. It's just really, really, like, they captured everything that we've talked about that's good about a 90s shooter and just melded it into this like modern day game. It's great.
It's a beautiful game. I highly recommend it. If you haven't played it, I just go get it right now. I'm telling you. They actually did just release Dusk on Switch as well. But I would probably tell you to play it on PC. That would just
definitely.
That was probably the most comfortable way to do it.
They also have something called Dusk World on it, where people upload their own maps. So if you, like, you know, if you go back to the days of Doom with like Doom World and the WODs that you could download, and Duke Nukem 3D with the extra levels that you could have, Dusk has that feeling as well, where you can download user created maps, which is great.
And staying on, I want to talk about these 3 New Blood games because I think that they are all excellent in their own way. The second game to come out from them was, well, I think they've had a couple other games that I haven't played, but again, these 3 main ones, the next one in the list is Amid Evil. And if Dusk is Doom and Quake kind of like merged together, then Amid Evil is their take on something like Hexen or Heretic, I guess. But there's no character classes. It still is like you get a full arsenal of different weapons, but they're all going to be fantasy inspired as opposed to, you know, just like your typical guns and stuff. So you'll get you start off with an axe that's like your main melee weapon, and then the next thing you get is just like a magic wand, or eventually it gets to the point where at least my favorite weapon in Amid Evil, you get like a mace that shoots out like icicles, but it has this kind of I guess like piercing mechanic to it. So if you kill an enemy with this weapon, the trajectory of the icicles will actually carry the enemy with it and like pin them to a wall. And I think that has got to be the most satisfying mechanic in any. Being able to pin enemies to walls in a video game is just so immensely satisfying to me.
It really is, yeah.
But again, it's like there's not a lot aside from like those weapons that differentiates, and obviously like the actual look of the game that differentiates it from Dusk. You know, you're still getting a full arsenal of weapons that you're going to be swapping between. You're going to get these very intricately designed levels that introduce new ideas as far as like, you know, traversing them and stuff like that. But it is still just like a joy to play these games. There's something about them that when I start playing them, I don't want to stop. But as fun as Amid Evil is, I still think that Dusk is kind of the crown jewel of this company. But I can't stress enough, like, you should play Amid Evil. You should play Dusk.
Oh yeah, definitely. Even though Dusk is, you know, I don't know, subjectively maybe for us a better game for us, it's still Amid Evil is the later game, so you'd expect them to kind of like iterate on that and you know, make it even better. But like Amid Evil is still an incredible game. Like, I loved it. Like, it might not have the absolute wackiness that Dusk had, but it's still just everything about it. It
is more grounded. Well. It is more grounded, but at the same time, still ridiculous, right? Like,
yeah, absolutely.
And their third game, which is still in early access, okay, but I've only just started playing it actually over the course of this week, is Ultra Kill. And Ultra Kill, again, is very much like Quake and Doom, but they factor in a combo system similar to like Devil May Cry. So they're really, really encouraging you to swap between as many weapons as often as possible in something like Ultra Kill. I also feel, I don't know, maybe this is just me, but don't you feel a little more constricted in Ultra Kill's level design? Like, it seems a little more, I don't want to say linear, but it seems more claustrophobic, like a little like tighter almost, you know?
I think it's the kind of the score aspect of the game. So I don't know if you guys played a game called Bulletstorm.
Yeah, I played Bulletstorm
back in 2009.
So where you could kick things, you could kick people, and you had a whip,
so the whole
right?
point, the whole point of the game was to not just kill everything, but kill it in a variety of different ways. Kill people in cool ways, and you generate score. And you know, it was kind of like a score attack thing as well. You know, you'd have these intricately designed levels where you could just go through and shoot stuff, but you'd have score popping up everywhere. So like Plush said, you could have a whip that you could pull people up into the air. It was like kind of this anti-grav static whip, which you know, if you whip someone up in the air, they would kind of stay there for a little while, and you get like a pigeon shooting bonus, you know, because you know, like whatever. And yeah, you could kick people, you can kick them into spikes. You're supposed to use the environment around you to kill people, and you get more points to do that. And I think Ultra Kill kind of, because it's got a score system like that in it as well, it kind of, I thought that it was going to be like a Bulletstorm kind of game. It starts off like in this very like corridor shootery kind of thing where you're like going into little arenas, and then a bunch of swarm of enemies will come out at you. And then, you know, there's one gun where you can flick a coin, and then you shoot the coin, and you will shoot somebody by deflecting the bullet off the coin and into the enemy. And it sounds crazy, and it is, but obviously you get a lot more score for that because it looks cooler and it is cooler. And I thought that's what the game was going to be like. It's got these very like sort of samey kind of corridors at the beginning of the game, but then it just gets absolutely crazy as well. Like it kind of moves away from that the more you get through Ultra Kill, in the fact that, you know, they start introduce like blue, red, yellow keys and all this, and like, you know, maze like level design, and then it will go linear again, a bit Half-Life-y, and then it will go, you know, you'll have this huge boss battle. You know, like again, like Ultra Kill just goes absolutely mad. Like, the more you play into it, and it's
I have to play more of it. The thing that I like about Ultra Kill is, at least to me, maybe even a little more so than a medieval. Well, definitely more than a medieval. I don't know about Dusk, but the actual story of Ultra Kill is like genuinely interesting to me. Like, I found myself questioning like more often, like, what is going on here? And I looked into it a little bit, and it's like you're playing as a robot that is fueled by blood. And your race of robots have caused humanity to go extinct. You've literally killed everything on Earth. And now the only place for you to go to get blood is hell. So you infiltrate hell, and you're descending. So the first, like, I guess, chapter or episode pack, I guess, is Limbo. So you're not even in hell yet. And every episode pack after that is another layer of hell. So it goes from, I think, from limbo to, I don't know, greed, and then they've got like lust and gluttony, and you're just descending further and further into hell to fuel your body, basically.
Yeah, I didn't really piece that together when I was playing it, but yeah, that kind of makes sense. That's cool.
I was very intrigued by that. Like the lore of these games is they're never very forward with it, but there's enough there for you to like start peeling away at it. And I just found Ultra Kill more so than the other two games. Like right off the bat, I was like, what is actually happening here? You know, and I really enjoyed that about Ultra Kill. I have not played much of it at all yet. I hope to play a little bit more of it this week and see how much it
I mean,
changes as it goes on.
Yeah, I mean, it gets crazy. I think you watched me play it
Yeah,
a while,
yeah.
didn't you? And yeah, I probably played it for a few hours. And yeah, I mean, I was shocked by it as I was playing it because I remember playing it for probably about 15 minutes when I first got the game. And I was like, oh, okay, I kind of get what this is going for. It's early access. So I'm like, a bit, humming and hawing about actually going all in and playing it to the end because they might add new episodes or whatever. But yeah, I played it on stream for a while and I was just like, it really shocked me because I was like, oh my God, like again, New Blood is just going mad with these games, like subversion of expectations, just to the max.
They're the masters of it. They have, I think that they've perfected this genre. They've elevated it in my eyes. Like they really, like almost like single-handedly have like rejuvenated my interest in this genre. I mean, after I played Dusk, and we'll talk about these games too, but a lot of them I haven't really even played yet. I just went on a boomer shooter buying spree. They really are like the spark that got me back into this. In fact, one of the games that I bought and haven't tried out yet, but I think that you played and you might know quite a bit about it, is Ion Fury. Did you play that one?
Oh yeah.
Tell me.
Ion Fury it's a Duke Nukem like game, so it was built on the build engine, right? And it's just a culmination of what everybody has learned that is possible on the build engine over 20 plus years. It's you play as I can't remember what her name is. You play as like this cyberpunky kind of girl in a cyberpunky world, and it is basically a Duke Nukem game. Imagine the first episode of Duke Nukem, which was more like city themed, but it's a cyberpunky world. And I think one of the first or second level there is like there's a whole like shopping mall or something that you can go into. Ooh. And pretty much everything is interactive.
Oh,
so
baby.
There's an arcade in there. You can actually play the arcade games using the build engine.
Oh, really?
And obviously, yeah, you get like loads of bonuses for doing so and things like that, like the ego system or whatever, and that was in Duke Nukem.
Right.
And like the weapons again are just completely ridiculous. Like it just invokes Duke Nukem and 90s boomer shooter, but it's got that Duke Nukem-iness to it. The story is quite intriguing as well. I was quite intrigued by the story. But yeah, I mean, it's quite tough as well. I played it on like the second to last like difficulty, because in boomer shooters you never play the hardest difficulty because it's stupid. It's built to be stupid.
Yeah.
But always go for the second to last one if you want to challenge a proper challenge.
Right.
And yeah, I played it on that, and Jesus Christ, it was hard. It was really, really hard. Maybe I was just a bit rusty or something. But
would you say like the main draw of the game is really to see like what the build engine is still capable of if you push it to the limits with like modern technology?
I think it shows that just because of what they've learned over the years, but it is a good game in itself.
Okay.
It's the levels are massive, sprawling, like maze-like as we come to expect from old 90s shooters. Again, like the interactiveness, like you just want to play with everything. You just want to look at everything,
right?
And just be like, Jesus, like I remember in Duke Nukem, like a car would look like a box with like painted on wheels or whatever.
Right.
It's like, okay, this is supposed to be a car, but in that, like they've actually made the cars look like cars. It's like just with the build engine, and it's like they still have that kind of what do you call it? Kind of like charm to them.
Yeah.
Say. But yeah, they've like improved on it so much, and the level design is great. The weapons are great. The enemies are great. Like it's just like in Duke Nukem you'd have special items like the jetpack and the first aid kit and all that shit. Like they've got like new special items in it as well, which are really fun to do. Yeah, like I honestly like I don't think you're gonna have a bad time with it at all. I think you'll have a similar time to Dusk and a Medieval.
So that I think that it was Ion Fury was actually published by 3D Realms as well. It wasn't. I think it may have been a solo project for whoever the developer was Voidpoint, and I don't know if that was just a single developer or not.
No, they had a development team.
Okay.
But they had a bit of controversy when the game came out. It was unfortunate for it, to be honest. Because,
I know, but it was called Ion Maiden, right?
Yeah. Well, no. That wasn't the controversy.
Oh.
That was just a bit of trouble that they had with the name.
Yeah.
Which is like it's a cool name, right? It is a play on words.
I like Ion Maiden way better. Yeah.
Yeah, but like the thing is, Iron Maiden is a bloody torture device from the medieval times anyway.
Iron
so it's
Maiden.
Like,
oh yeah.
Iron Maiden.
Yeah.
Because of course it's this like one of the biggest metal bands in the world or whatever. Then it's like, oh, you can't do that. You can't take the R out and call it a futuristic video game. Anyway, that's dumb, but it was a thing that happened. But there was a controversy where one of the developers like went into a level and made like a little room full of like what was it, like homophobic stuff and all that. He like wrote like loads of crap all over the wall, but it was like there's no way you can get to this place in the level unless you like got no clip or whatever,
right?
But people found it and then were like, what the hell is this? And he like plastered his name all over it and everything, and then the guys were like, look, I don't know, like this guy has just done this, like we didn't know about it, like
right.
It's not something you can check with quality checks either, because you're checking via putting yourself into the game and testing out the levels, not like looking around in the build, like in Hammer or whatever it's called. So yeah, there was a bit of controversy surrounding the game, and it got like, I think it got review bombed as well on Steam because of it, which really sucks.
Yeah,
really sucks.
It is
but
very positive right now. So
yeah. It said this product has experienced one or more periods of off-topic review activity based on the preferences. The reviews within the periods have been excluded from this product's review score. So yeah, they got review bombed at that time, which is a shame. But yeah, it's very positive. But if you just watch the trailer of it, it's just like, it just looks like Duke Nukem.
It does, yeah. Like a really good Duke Nukem, too.
Yeah, and like I'm watching it now, like the levels are huge. They're so varied. There's one point where she's in a boat, like flying around on a river, like absolutely destroying everything that's on the riverbanks. A motorbike as well, going through the city with like trains and stuff flying by above. Like, this is the Duke Nukem engine. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just crazy what they've done with it. But yeah, I really enjoy Iron Fury. I think you'll like it as well, especially if you were really into Duke Nukem on the N64, you know?
Yeah. That is definitely one of the ones that I plan on playing soon. But 3D Realms have kind of been having a bit of a comeback as well, too, because that's not the only game that they have published recently. In fact, one of the games that I played a little bit of, but unfortunately it is also in early access, and I don't know, man. I wish that we could just have these games like, you know, full out right now. What is this game even called? Hold on, I'm looking for it.
It's not Graven.
Oh, it's Graven. Yeah. Graven is almost a little bit more like Strife in how it's structured, where you have like a hub area, you can get quests, like specific quests and stuff like that, and it also has more of like a steampunk feel to it, is how I would describe it. In fact, like the hub area almost reminded me of kind of like the more urban environments in something like Bloodborne, but just, you know, in this graphical style that we have come to love from the boomer shooters. But yeah, I mean, like I played a little bit of it. It was pretty fun. But there's not a lot to it right now. And you know, Graven, the other one, it's called Wrath, Aeon of Fury, which is also a 3D Realms game as well. That one I haven't actually played yet, but I like I said, I kind of went crazy and just got all the boomer shooters that I could find.
Hell yeah.
And But I kind of wish I didn't. I kind of wish I didn't get Wrath, and I kind of wish I didn't get Graven, because they are in these early access periods where I don't know, man, and they're asking, like, you know, full price for the games, but I figure by the time that they get their full release, it'll be absolutely worth it. You know, I'll be like, yeah, I'm glad that I bought this game. It just sucks.
So
that, you know,
the thing is, like, and it doesn't make sense at all. So we've said, like, early access is such a pain nowadays, because you either get just a small slice of the game, which then, you know, is a pain in the ass coming back to. Sometimes they'll just completely wipe your progress as well, because
Right.
it's not compatible with the old saves and things, so you have to play it all again, and then again when they bring up more stuff. Like, if I played like something like Hades or something when it first came out, and that's all I played of it, and then you've obviously played the full release version, we've played two totally different games, you know.
Yeah.
Not only in the fact that Hades only came out with the first two worlds, I think,
Yeah.
but the fact that, you know, the boons would have been different. They would have been, some would have been stronger, some would have been bad. I would have been saying, oh, you should really get this boon and this boon together, because, you know, it's really OP. And it's like, you would get that and you go, no, it's not, it sucks. You know, like, because early access games, they're just totally, like, every 5 seconds just being updated, and like problems with it and whatnot. So the 90s shooters, when they first came out, and this was with Doom, Duke Nukem, Serious Sam, they had the shareware versions, right?
Right.
Which you could have the first episode of these games for free, which is a good deal, because that's a lot of content. It's about 10 levels.
Yeah.
And then you could, like, you know, mail away for the actual full disc version of the game, you know, or whatever. And then you get all 4 episodes or 5 episodes or whatever it would be. It seems to me that these, like, resurgent of 90s shooters are kind of cashing in on that nostalgia.
Yeah.
In that they're saying, like, oh, guys, this is like the shareware version of the game, you know? So it only comes with the first episode, and then, you know, we'll release all the other episodes then. It's like, dude, like, that's not what you're doing at all. If it was really shareware, you'd be giving us the first episode for free while you're still working on it.
Yeah.
You know, and then it's like, it's just playing off people's nostalgia. And then the one thing that I'm worried about, the reason why I didn't get Graven, was the fact that, like, people had a load of problems with the game at the start, like their saves becoming corrupted and like them breaking the game and stuff. But then also that people are starting to say now that there's been no, like, communication from the developers.
Yeah.
In, like, what's happening
That's a
next.
big problem.
And that is a big problem with
Yeah.
early access, in the fact that there's been so many games that they've just said, look, actually, we were kind of banking on people buying this game a lot in early access because we ran out of money. And we're just going to abandon it now. And it's like, great, like, I bought into this idea, you know, and I'm going to get nothing to show for it now. I'm going to get half a baked game. And it's like, it's like, it is kind of your fault, you know, if you do go for early access games and then they just disappear off the face of the planet. It's like, you know, don't buy into it. Like, these guys have like, if they have good project management, you know, they've got a budget, they know how long they can last for. It's like, they should be able to make their game within this specified budget, how much ever money they got. They shouldn't be banking on early access or pre-orders or anything like that to keep the game going. That's just asking for trouble. So yeah, I think, like, the fact that all of these games are trying to, oh yeah, remember shareware? That's what we're doing. We're doing shareware. It's like, no, you're not doing shareware. You're doing a early access.
Yeah.
Where people are giving you full price for the game early just for having the few first levels. It's wrong to me. It's wrong.
It is. But in the case of, like, Graven, like, again, like, because I did spend a little bit of time with Graven, and I didn't hit too many, like, bugs or anything like that, but it's actually, like, much, like, more involved than your typical, because again, it's more like Strife than Doom, right?
Yeah.
So it is actually, it's got RPG elements to it and stuff. So it's a game that when you do sit down and play an hour or two in it, you can feel yourself starting to kind of get absorbed by it, but it's always lingering in the back of your mind, like, oh, well, there's only 4 more hours of content to go, and then I have to wait who knows how long, and who knows how long it's been since the last update. I haven't been like keeping on top of Graven. I just kind of trust that eventually, the game will get a full release. But yeah, I haven't even like. Let's see. The last bit of news was all right, November 18th, 2021. So
yeah, I mean that's quite a long time ago for an early access game. I mean,
yeah,
like they usually do weekly or at least monthly updates.
right.
To not have one since November is pretty worrying.
It's worrying, yeah. But it's the same thing with like Strife, I think, or not Strife. Wrath, I think, was supposed to. I don't know. I think it was supposed to get a full release by now, and it still hasn't. And their last update, thankfully, was only about a week ago. So Wrath looks like they're still keeping up with it.
Yeah, they've updated their roadmap to full release in 2022,
yeah,
which could be anything.
Doesn't really mean anything, right?
The most egregious thing I've seen with early access, though, is probably, apart from the games that have just completely abandoned development, but probably the most egregious early access thing that I've seen is Baldur's Gate.
Oh, man.
Baldur's Gate 3.
Yeah,
3,
yeah.
is it? Yeah, 3.
3.
Like, I looked at that and I was like, it costs £50.
Yeah.
So, like,
Or
$73.
$60.
Yeah. Oh, is it $60 for you?
60,
So we get a really bad deal on that. But it's £50 in the UK, which is something like $75. It's only the first act, which, okay, admittedly is a lot of content. It's about 20 hours of content. But they said when the full release comes out or the next act comes out, they're going to wipe all the saves.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you're asking for full price
$60
for Act 1 for a third of the game, and you're going to wipe my saves as well. I'm like,
so you want me to play
like
20 hours of your game? Let's say that's like 20 hours of content, which is I don't know if that's how much is there. That's a good amount of content, but for them to erase that, that makes me say like, oh no, I'm either not gonna get, I'm either gonna wait for the full release, or if I did get the early access, I did. I'm just not gonna play it.
Did you actually?
I did, yeah, but I literally have not opened it at all. It has been it's not even installed on my computer. I've just been waiting for the full thing, but it's just like, at least I do own it if it ever does get a full access. I've learned since then, like this was when I first got like my PC, and I was like, okay, like CRPGs, boomer shooters, I'm gonna go all in and play the games that like either I couldn't play on console or just feel better to play.
Should get the finished ones though.
That's probably the best way to do it. But yeah, even like recently, one of the games that I'm most interested in right now is Death Trash. I bring this game up to you once a week. You never know what it is, but then you always look at it and you're like, oh,
what's
yeah,
that,
this
an
game.
FPS, is it?
Yeah. But Death Trash, like, it looks amazing. It looks hilarious. The art is beautiful. It is like, it is a plushy game. It's a game that I know I'm gonna enjoy playing. And it's only $20, and I think it's on sale right now. But it's in early access, so we have, I think, between 6 and 8 hours of playable content right now, and then who knows when. So I've learned my lesson. I'm not really someone who does early access very often anymore.
It's really weird to me, because it's like, I think developers are like kind of like, oh, if you pay a bit of money, you're basically like a beta tester, and you're going to be like on the forefront of the front lines of us developing this game. You're going to be right in there. And it's like, no, you're not. Like, betas used to work where you like get a few people, invite them in, who knew a lot about that genre or that game in general, and then you give feedback. And now it's like, okay, let's open it up. You got to pay for access to the beta, which is basically a lot of these games are in beta. They haven't even got a third of it finished yet. And then, you go into the forums, then it's just a flood of people. You're not even going to get seen. You're going to go into their forums. You're going to say, oh, by the way, in level 2, I found this really, bad, egregious thing, which is stopping me progress. It's just going to get absolutely swallowed up in all of these people going like, you know,
Yeah,
how do you get the key in level 3?
Beyond that too. I mean, it's like you've got like subreddits where they're asking you, they want you to join their Discord, and like it becomes like, oh, to actually enjoy this game, I have to do all this extra stuff to ask questions to other people who've played it, who else experienced this weird bug or whatever. It's like, I don't want to be a part of that. But then again, every now and then there's a game that comes along. I mean, like Vampire Survivors. Again, they're only asking for $3 for entry, you know, for Vampire Survivors. But one game that we haven't talked about yet that I need to bring it up is Prodeus, which is another modern boomer shooter that's actually made in Unreal Engine 4. So is a Medieval, and I think Ultra Kill as well. I might be wrong about Ultra Kill. Definitely not.
You can do
Dust.
anything in Unreal, though,
but yeah. But wow, Prodeus. Again, it's in early access, but the amount they released a good amount of content for it. It's, I would say, more than your average like episode 1 pack. You know, like there's more levels in it than Doom episode 1. But you do still get through it fairly quickly. I would say it would probably take you between like 10, 12 hours to kind of see everything that Prodeus has to offer right now. But it works perfectly. Like that game feels and looks like amazing. That's a game that I have no regrets buying into the early access for that. I
really like Prodeus. Like all of the gameplay and everything is great, but the environments just did not grab me.
They are a little drab, and they have that. A lot of them have that kind of what I call the Halo 4 problem, where it's like everything is silver and kind of shiny. Yeah.
It kind of reminds me, like, it's trying to be like Doom in, like, you know, some other moon which has been, you know, the demons have taken over another space station, you know, on this moon or whatever.
My probably biggest gripe with the game is that the enemies are pretty much just straight up Doom enemies. I mean, they are all the archetypes of Doom, just ripped, slightly modified, but they behave
the zombie shooters, the imps, you know,
the imps.
Like,
they even have like the Caco demon style enemies in there and stuff. I do wish.
I really like the game, but
it's
kind
amazing.
of wish like if you had Prodeus in like a city or something like that, you know, with real world locations and varied locations, I'd be like, yeah, this is good.
That's the thing is like Prodeus it's maybe not the best of like the modern boomer shooter, but because of I would say the art direction of the levels, although the level designs are still, I think, top notch. Between the art direction of the levels and the art direction of the enemies and the behavior of the enemies, it seems more like it's aping Doom than kind of doing its own original thing. But it feels great to play. Like I completely loved my time playing that game. I had those gripes in the back of my mind, but at the forefront was just fun. I was just having fun playing it.
It is like by no means is this like is the environment's a thing to like stop you playing this game, because this game is just like
it's top notch.
It's just fantastic. It is top notch. It is like what everything a boomer shooter should be. It's also got a map maker in it as well.
Yes.
Which you can play user created levels. That would like whenever something is included like that in a boomer shooter game, I'm like all over it, because like I go back to thinking about, you know, Doom and Duke Nukem and what they did with that. Like the environments and things that you could make are so varied, and just anything like the movie tie-ins, things like that.
Yeah.
But I feel like with this one, it's going to remind me of Doom Snap Map, like the 2016 Snap Map.
Right.
It's going to be all shiny hallways. It's going to be like rocky canyons. It's all going to be that. I bet you there's not one like kind of level that they've been able to do that's like a city level.
I haven't really like explored the user created stuff in that.
I might be wrong.
I will say though, one thing that I think is kind of unique that Proteus does is it offers an option. You can either have the enemy models be sprites, so like Doom, like OG Doom, or you can swap them out for 3D models. So suddenly it goes from looking like Doom to looking like Quake. And at least for me, I don't know about you, it's the sprites all the way.
Yeah, sprites.
You gotta go for the sprites.
Yeah.
They look incredible. I did switch it to the 3D models just to, experience it. And it's actually kind of funny how much it changes the aesthetic of the game. You really don't... It goes from feeling like Doom to feeling like Quake, but
yeah.
But yeah,
it's still got that pixel art kind of like look to it though, even in 3D. Like they're kind of like clay models, like photoshopped in kind of thing. It's like but it looks really good. Like even the weapons and stuff. The weapons have like this kind of like with the recoil and stuff. It's got this kind of stop motion look to it,
right?
Which I just love. It just looks great. It's a great game. On this list of this tier list for boomer shooters,
let's hear.
It's in the B. It's in the B list.
Ooh, okay, that's high up. Yeah, so lay it on me. What do we got?
Well, it only goes to C.
So what's in the C tier? What do we got? Let's see if we agree.
This is a tier list created by community voting of retro boomer shooters FPS games. All right.
Okay.
So these are all the boomer shooter community. I don't know what community they're from, whether it's Reddit or whatnot, but it's an overall community tier list. So in C, we've got one called Head On. Have you seen that?
No, I haven't.
HEDON?
No.
I can't click on it.
Let's see.
It looks like a modern one. Let's have a look at Head On.
Yeah, I'm gonna take a look in the Steam store. HEDON?
HEDON, yeah.
Let's see.
Head On.
It looks
Head On Blood
like...
Right.
Oh my.
Okay.
It's
okay. It looks a bit like dusky.
It does look dusky. It's got more of a 3D look to everything. Although the enemy models.
Oh wow, the sprites are very 2D. They look like paper cutouts.
Yeah, they do. And their animation
yeah,
is very stop animation. The fire animation is pretty cool too in this. It's got a very... This is much brighter and cartoonier looking than, I guess, what we're used to. It almost has like a cel-shaded look to the environments for Head On.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of like a build engine game, but if like there was like anti-aliasing to the max all over it.
Right.
Everything looks smooth and clean. But yeah, I mean, apparently it is a good game. It's got overwhelmingly positive reviews overall, so that's very good. It's not in early access either, and it's got a demo, so I'll be downloading that later. I'll tell you that right now.
Hell yeah.
Let's stick that on download, shall we? Right. We got Heretic 2.
Oh.
So Heretic was another Doom-like
Heretic
game
is Hexen. Yeah, that
Hexen,
is.
yeah.
In fact, I think Heretic 2 is literally Hexen, unless there is another Heretic 2. I could be wrong.
I don't know.
I have let me see if I have it in my library here. Hexen. Yeah, so I have Heretic, Shadow of the Serpent Riders, Hexen, which is the sequel to Heretic, and then there's Hexen 2, which is technically the third in the series. So if there's a Heretic 2, then I don't know that one.
Maybe there is something on Steam. Heretic 2, maybe?
Let's see.
No? Well, it says Hexen Beyond Heretic.
Yeah, that is Hexen.
I played Hexen. I don't think I played Heretic then. But there is Hexen 2 as well. I'm not sure what Heretic 2 is. Maybe it's Hexen 2.
Maybe it's just Hexen 1.
Yeah.
I don't know either.
We won't concentrate on that too much.
I do like Hexen though.
We got Redneck Rampage, which is, I think, a build engine game.
Redneck Rampage? I've not heard of that one.
Was that build engine or was it Doom?
I think
it was build engine.
Is that an old game or is that...
Yeah, that's an old game.
Redneck? It's not on
playing
Steam.
It. I didn't... No, it's not. Oh, it is on Steam.
It is?
Oh, on Google apparently. It's just taking me over there.
Oh, there it is. I found it.
Yeah, so this is a build engine
97.
game. Yeah, 97. Again, this was just a ridiculous, like, kind of. I think all the build engine games were trying like hard with the comedy. You know, every single one, like Shadow Warrior. What was the main character's name? Lo Wang.
Wang, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's a build engine game where you play as rednecks and you run around shooting people. So
that's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I've never played. This is in the C tier. C is actually the lowest tier.
Right.
Weirdly, it's got Wolfenstein, the 2009 one for Xbox 360. It's got that in here. I don't think that's a boomer shooter. I think just the fact that it's Wolfenstein on it that
doesn't
makes
necessarily
it a boomer shooter.
Right. Just because it is like I don't consider the new Wolfenstein games boomer shooters. They're very fast paced, but they're not boomer shooters.
What I'm going to skip through on here are the immersive sims, the modern
like
games,
Thief and stuff, or
Thief, I would say, like, borders, like, straddles the line, but they've got like Deus Ex on here and System Shock and stuff, which I wouldn't say is boomer shooters at all.
No.
So let's go. We've got the Terminator Future Shock. Never played the Terminator Future Shock, which must have been a Doom clone back in the day, along with William Shatner's Tech War, which I have seen that game before.
Really?
That is a Doom. Yeah, that's a Doom game, which is hilarious.
I've never heard of either of those.
There was also one called Spear of. Wait, was it? No, Spear of Destiny was Wolfenstein, wasn't it?
I think so. Yeah.
But there was a game with like loads of shirtless men. I can't remember. I think it was. What's that say? Blakestone Planet Strike. I think it might have been that one.
Never heard of
that. So these
are
all like the weird Doom likes that were brought out at the time. It was literally called Doom likes. They weren't called like boomer shooters or FPSs back then. It was just like compare everything to Doom.
Yeah,
Even
I mean Doom
was
so huge at the time when it came out that there was a flood of I call them Doom clones really, but Doom
clones. Yeah. They've got John Romero's Daikatana on here as well.
No, that's a good game.
No, I did not like that.
You didn't
game
like
at
that
all.
game? I like that game.
No. It was around the time that like Half-Life 2 was coming out and stuff. It was just total shite compared to that.
That's true.
It came out at the wrong time, unfortunately. We've got some shite in here. Like they're basically there's nothing new in there. It's all of the Doom likes basically, which were pretty bad.
Daikatana made everyone its bitch, says Rafa.
Yeah. Oh god, Daikatana. Yeah, that was the marketing strategy of it, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, so we got B tier. We got Rise of the Triad, which was a very good build engine game.
I never played that one.
Very hard though. I would recommend you play it.
Yakuza Doom game?
It was kind of like 1950s noir, like. Kind of looking. It had like Tommy guns and stuff, if I remember rightly, and everybody wore like a Stetson hat and suits and stuff.
I'm looking at it on Steam right now.
Yeah.
Although it's not loading for me. Some of these screenshots. It looks like aesthetically looks good. Like.
Yeah, it's they're good games. All the build engine games.
How recent was Rise of the Triad?
Oh, really old.
Oh, really? It looks like
they might have brought out a new.
I mean, the version on Steam might be like some sort of like remaster or remake or something, but like it looks like really good. That's a remaster for sure.
Oh, okay, yeah, yeah. I didn't even know about that. It's got mixed reviews as well. Yeah. That was in 2013.
2013, yep.
Damn. Well, mixed reviews. I don't think it was very well received. Anyway,
poo-poo.
But this is the original one we're talking about in B tier, which was a very good game. I remember. We've got the Wolfenstein 3D in there, which was the id game before Doom.
Yeah.
The OG, which I don't know if you've gone back and played that recently. I have.
I have in Wolfenstein. You know how they always include the old games in. Yeah. So. I don't know if it was like an arcade machine or what it was, but I went back and was playing the original Wolfenstein, and I had fun with it actually. I actually quite enjoyed it. It was a good time.
It is quite fun, but I mean, I played it all the way through like
Oh, I didn't play it all the way through. Yeah.
Yeah, I played it all the way through, and Jesus Christ, like there's only so many one floor kind of level designs that you can do.
Yeah.
It was it was pretty difficult to get through, but of course without that we wouldn't have had the epicness that was Doom. We've got Quake 4 in there.
Never played, but we did speak a bit about that.
We did speak a bit about that. We've got Final Doom, the Plutonia Experiment, and Evolution in there, which were two big WODs. They weren't very well received, I don't think, but they were the big sort of like community-made expansions to Doom.
What was the newest one that came out maybe like a year or two ago that John Romero actually developed? What was that called? Sigil? Yeah. Was it called Sigil?
Sigil, that's it. Sigil, yeah.
Yeah.
Sigil's really good.
I have
really,
that.
Really good.
Like all these again are all available on any version of Doom that you buy now, any modern version of Doom.
Yeah.
All this stuff is included in it for free. I think you do have to like download it and install it, but it's all in there, so you can experience it.
Yeah, Bethesda release like re-releases of Doom for every console and whatnot. You have to sign into their servers and such, which is a bit crap. But they did have this like kind of Bethesda net like download page where they would put on like loads of WODs and stuff that they'd curate. And so I thought that was a cool idea, but obviously I play all these games on PC, so I just do it myself, like just download the WODs. But I mean, it's good for people that might just have it on the Switch or on the console or whatever. They can play all these really cool WODs because these are full games. Like the original Dooms were always like 32 levels, and all of these expansions have 32 levels in them, except Sigil, which I think was about 10 levels.
Yeah, it's pretty short,
but still very good.
Oh, yeah.
We have Turok and Turok 2.
Hell yeah! I gotta play too. It's on my list.
You really do. This is B tier as well. We've got Iron Fury on B tier.
Okay.
Which I think that should be higher personally. I don't agree with many of these, especially since Duke Nukem Forever is in A tier. So I don't know who the hell has put this together.
What?
I mean, some trolley voting I think has gone on here.
Yeah, I don't. That's got to be suddenly I've just lost all faith in this tier list. If Duke Nukem Forever is in A tier.
Well, I mean, like a lot of the others are in the right place for sure, for sure. It's just Duke Nukem. I'm sure that's just a troll in there.
Yeah.
I don't know why Iron Fury's lower though. It honestly could be because that controversy. Whenever this was taken, it could have people could have bumped that down with loads of C tier votes because of this one stupid developer. Interestingly, there's also Hexen 2 on here
in the B tier.
In B tier, yeah.
He said A tier because it actually came out. It defied the odds.
Oh my god. Well, I mean, if that's A tier for games, there's a lot of shite games in A tier. Right. So weirdly, we've also got Perfect Dark and GoldenEye in there.
I was gonna ask you as the final question for this podcast.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was gonna ask you, would you consider Perfect Dark and GoldenEye to be boomer shooters? And
no, not really. I think you're kind of considering things like Medal of Honor and stuff in there then, and Call of Duty.
Well, I mean, yeah, I guess. I still feel like Medal of Honor and Call of Duty and even like the original Rainbow Six and stuff like that, like they're all in their own kind of class. But for some reason, something about GoldenEye and Perfect Dark are a little more frantic, a little more fast-paced, a little less serious. And
yeah, I think there's a transition, isn't there, between like Doom, Duke Nukem, then GoldenEye and Perfect Dark, and then something like Medal of Honor, which came out sort of around the same time. So yeah, I think like I think what saves GoldenEye in for consideration for being a boomer shooter is the fact that with the different difficulty levels, you've got like a bit more of a sprawling map and more objectives to do, and you have to kind of think a bit more with the maps. But the maps are so like most of them anyway are so kind of linear.
Yeah, especially GoldenEye.
You've got the big the surface level, let's say on GoldenEye, the big snow level with a big radar dish in the middle. I mean, that's open, but it's just filled with nothing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I wouldn't consider it myself a boomer shooter. But I would definitely say that it's closer than the modern FPSs kind of games that we
Right.
get today.
Mm-hmm.
There's also one called Hrot, Hrot,
Let's see, what's that look
which
like?
I think I've seen this game a lot.
HROT looks just like Quake. It looks like
Yeah.
it's very brown. It's a very brown game. It actually
So this was
looks
made
kinda
by
cool.
an Eastern European company, I believe.
Mhm.
And yeah, it's their take on a 90s shooter.
Oh,
I'm sure there was some horror elements
This
to
is
it.
a new game, and it's in early access. What do you know?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it,
Early January it came out, yeah.
yeah, and it looks like I don't know. Like I don't like the if you look this game up on Steam, anyone the first thing it smacks you in the face with is just everything is brown. I mean, everything is brown.
Look at the first review, Plushie.
Oh, let's see. What's it say? It says brownest game I've seen. Yeah, wow. I mean, it looks like it has some interesting, level design. The weapons. I mean, look, he's got like a scythe straight out of Dusk right here for his melee weapon.
I mean, the last update was like 10 days ago.
That's not bad. That's not bad. That's good that they're keeping up with it. I don't know.
They're very small. Though.
I don't know that I like the fact that everything looks like it's crafted out of poop, though.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of like I don't know if they're trying to have the 360 era feeling of everywhere being brown and grey.
Yeah.
But I mean, it depends on the gameplay as well, doesn't it? It's like I really don't like Proteus's environments.
Right.
I mean, it's got more to it than this, but
it's hard to.
I mean,
judge...
even if
Yeah, it's hard to judge off screenshots for any boomer shooter, right? Because
I mean, the combat looks really fun, so I definitely consider it. There is a demo of it as well, and it's got overwhelmingly positive reviews overall.
And maybe I'll check it out.
It looks like, yeah. I mean, it's got a demo, so you may as well give it a look.
Yeah.
B tier, we've got Proteus in there.
That sounds right.
I'm skipping Cruelty Squad because that's in there.
Cruelty, God, guys, come on, that's not a boomer shooter.
Yeah, it's immersive sim, really.
Yeah.
I mean, it's closer to a boomer shooter than I'd say System Shock or Prey or those kind of games.
Yeah, but at its core, it is an immersive sim.
Yeah, definitely. I wouldn't put it in here. We've also got what else we got? We got Final Doom in there. We have Wrath, which you were talking about, is in there
on B tier.
Yeah, B tier.
Okay.
Devil Daggers. Have you played that game?
Devil Daggers. No, I have not. Let's take a look at it. Although I am. Let's see. Wait, hold on. Let's see what this. Oh, it's only.
It is just an arena.
Just one arena.
Just one arena. That's it.
and then what, you get like
just
more
got
and more waves.
Enemies everywhere. Yeah, so just waves of enemies come in from the darkness. That's why it's so cheap, really.
Yeah. Only 13 different enemy types. I don't know about this one.
I mean, we say this is boomer shooter because I mean, you run around.
Well,
in a circle
if we were gonna be like, if we're gonna nitpick, right, then this is an arena shooter, right? If you only get one arena and nothing to explore or no secrets to look for and stuff, then we can't consider.
I always feel
this
like
a boomer
arena
shooter.
shooters though need like a multiplayer component.
Yeah, you would think.
I always feel like but yeah, I would say that this is just an arena FPS, like a wave,
like a horde
wave
standalone
FPS, a horde
mode.
Yeah, with a retro kind of style
aesthetic,
to it.
Yeah.
I mean, it totally breaks our rules of having intricate level design and maze-like level design. I mean, it's literally just
where on this tier list is Graven? I'm curious. I need to know. Is it low or is it higher up?
I don't think they like it at all because it's
not on there. Maybe that list was made before Graven came out, but
maybe. But it is here. It has got Wrath in here. I don't know when Graven came out. Is it recent?
Yeah, Graven came out after Wrath.
Okay, let's go through the good ones then. So we got the A tier.
Mm-hmm.
The final tiers that we've got is A, S, and then triple S.
Ooh.
So triple S are like the granddaddies, the godly ones.
Yep.
So in A tier, quite surprisingly, Dusk.
Wow,
Ultra
that's
Kill,
low.
and a Medieval.
All three of them?
Yeah.
Come on, Dusk. I would bump Dusk up. I would bump
We
Dusk
have.
way up.
I would as well. Quake 2.
Mm.
We've got Unreal Tournament. We got Duke Nukem Forever.
Unreal Tournament is another one. Like we should clarify. Like at least me, I consider that to be an arena shooter, not a.
It did have a single player kind of shooter component to it though, which wasn't like just AI bots arenas. It was actual level design.
Oh, okay. I never played that portion of the game. I don't know which Unreal Tournament I played. I definitely played the one on 360. That was like what 3 or 4 or something like that. But before that, I had played another one and wasn't really into it. I don't know which one it was though.
Okay, we got System Shock and System Shock 2, which I don't think are boomer shooters.
Nope, they're not.
We've also got Return to Castle Wolfenstein, which that is definitely not a boomer shooter. That was a really good game. That was a really good shooter, but it wasn't a boomer shooter.
Is that the one that went like full out with the like kind of like fantasy? Horror. Yeah, where you're fighting like werewolves and like no, I don't think skeletons and.
Yeah, maybe. I remember like it started off like in the castle where you'd break out of prison and then you'd be like eating sausages and stuff to get your health back and like killing all the Nazis or whatever. And then you'd go downstairs into the dungeon of the castle and then you'd see like Nazis just dead already in there and you're like, what the hell? And then they would just have these impossibly hard like zombie skeleton things like start chasing you around. It's just like what happened to this game? Like like it really subverted my expectations in that game for sure when I played it as a kid, and it scared the life out of me.
But not a boomer shooter.
No, not a boomer shooter. I wouldn't say so. They've also got the Old Blood in here, which is stupid. That's not a boomer shooter. We got Quake 3. We got Doom 3 Resurrection of Evil. That was Doom 3's DLC. We haven't actually said the original Doom 3 game in this tier list yet, which is quite surprising.
But do you consider Doom 3 to be a boomer shooter? Because I don't.
No. It was more like, it was way more akin to modern FPSs. It was more of a horror shooter, really.
Yeah, I agree.
But I actually really like Doom 3. A lot of people say that it was crap, but it kind of compared to Doom. You know, the intricate level design, all this sort of stuff that makes it a boomer shooter wasn't there.
I have not been able to get through Doom 3. I gave it I have it. I do own it. And I started it, and I started it with the intention of like fully knowing like this is not the Doom that you're used to, you know. This is very much playing into the tropes that made games popular at the time, you know, with a heavy emphasis on story and stuff like that. And I don't know, man, I couldn't do it. It's still on my list.
The problem is that it's quite nostalgic for me, and we got a pretty decent PC around the time of release of Doom 3. And I actually got this book, which was like the behind the scenes development, like big hardback thing, like huge. It was a huge book. And it would like go into like all the new tech that they put together to make this game and like screenshots from it. And I'm like, this is the best looking game ever. And when it first came out, it was one of the best looking games ever. It was fantastic when it first came out. Obviously now you look at it and you're like, what the frick?
Yeah.
Even though a lot of the environments still look very good. It was like unheard of to have like that level of graphics.
Oh yeah, I remember
they were like going, they were saying in this book like, we are going to include something called anti-aliasing, and it was like, oh wow, what's that? And now it's everywhere. We've also got Shadow Warrior in there,
the OG,
which
or the remake.
Yeah, the OG, not the remake. There's none of the remakes on here, so they obviously don't consider those boomer shooters, but they do with Wolfenstein. So I don't know. But the OG Shadow Warrior, if you haven't played that plushie, I think you get that with Shadow Warrior anyway, didn't you? Oh no, I think I got a Steam bundle with the OG Shadow Warrior.
I only have Shadow Warrior 2, which I got the remake, which I got with the intention of playing it co-op and like never got around to it. So
Yeah, I'm not talking about the new remake Shadow Warrior either. The OG
Yeah,
build
I've
engine
never
one.
played the OG, but maybe I should.
Yeah, the OG's on Steam. I think Shadow Warrior. Yeah, it's 1969p.
Oh wow,
Nice. So yeah, I
nice,
mean it's a remaster as well, but it's a cool game. It's cool.
cool.
Lo Wang says the funniest things as well. Um, one of the weird things on here that it's got Half-Life, which I wouldn't consider a boomer shooter either.
No, it's not. It's not.
It's going out of that kind of. It's got the Wolfenstein the New Order on here as well. I mean, this is a shit tier list. But yeah. Anyway, so we're on S list now.
Okay, S tier.
Doom 64 S.
That's
which
triple
is good.
S for me.
I'm glad it's. Yeah, I'm glad it's that high anyway because a lot of people dismiss Doom 64 and it's sacrilege. They've also got Blood on here, which was another build engine game that was really cool. That was more akin to Dusk. If you have a look on Steam, I think there might be
Blood
might be on here.
Blood was actually remade by Night Dive as well.
Oh right, okay.
Mhm.
What's it? I'm just typing Blood in, but it's not. Is it called something else?
Let's see.
I can't find it with just Blood. I'll give him
See if I
Blood
can
Bowl
find
and
it. Yeah, I got Bloodstained.
Blood Stained, Blood Trail.
Why? Why is it got to be so hard to find?
Yeah, if you could just call your game Blood, it's hard to find.
Yeah, there definitely is. It definitely is on Steam, and there definitely was a remaster of sorts. Let me see. Blood remaster. Night Dive Studios.
Oh, Fresh Supply.
Fresh Supply. That's it.
Oh damn! It's only £2.44. Oh, I might get that. That might be a new one for me to go through as well. But yeah, that one was. It's very hard. It's very hard. I remember playing that. I remember like the vivid pictures of me throwing the dynamite. So you'd like light this dynamite and chuck it into a room, and like the explosion would be so big. Like, because dynamite in real life, like the explosion that you get off dynamite is ridiculous, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I remember the like for a build engine game as well. I remember firing the rocket launcher in Duke Nukem, and then it would make this like little tiny mushroom cloud, you know?
Right.
But the dynamite in Blood would just like take out a whole room easy. It was great game. One interesting one here. They've got Star Wars Dark Forces on there. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do, but is that a boomer shooter? Is that the one that I'm thinking of?
Dark Forces was definitely a boomer shooter. It's on Steam as well. It's,
wow.
It's a proper FPS. It's
Yeah, I think that was like one of the few PC games that we owned like back in the day, and I used to love that game. If it's the game I think it is.
Yeah, it's I think we used to have it on PlayStation. That was when we started getting these FPSs for PlayStation as well. But it's yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed it. I played this one. I think there was another one that came out as well. I remember a poo level. I remember my dad watching me play it. I think it was my dad that was watching me play, and I was like, "What's all this brown stuff that's everywhere?" And he was like, "Oh, it's poo," and I was like, "Ugh." I just have this vivid memory of this level just being covered in poo. It probably wasn't poo. The last one in S tier. The last one in S tier is Doom Eternal. So they put Doom Eternal in there. We haven't had Doom 2016 yet. So this is triple S now. These are the triple S games, the best of the best for Doom shooters. Doom 2016 is in there. So that coincides with what you said. You liked Doom 2016 more than Doom Eternal.
Yeah.
I was the other way around. But I still really love both of them. I put them both in triple S, to be honest. We have the original Doom. We have Doom 2.
Which is just Doom with like one extra enemy.
Yeah, Doom 1.5.
Yeah.
Duke Nukem 3D.
Fair.
We have Quake.
Quake. I only played Quake for the first time with you a couple months back, and I did actually really enjoy Quake. But I need to go back and play all the way through it. But I didn't enjoy it as much as there's something. it loses
it's very
something
brown
for me.
again. It's
very
brown.
brown. I also feel like the 3D character models, for me anyway, I don't know, they're just not as fun as the sprites, personally.
I think it was because the enemy design as well was just really uninspired. Really, I think
Yeah.
like the 2D sprites in Doom, like every single enemy was recognizable. They were very different. They like you could clearly see what they are. But when you had this like 3D clunky kind of like mesh of polygons, it was like, is this a human? Is this just like a big blob monster? Is this a zombie? I have no idea.
Yeah.
Um, but I wasn't the biggest fan of Quake 1 for sure. I've never really been a big fan of Quake, like a super huge fan. I've always much more enjoyed like varied things like Doom and Duke Nukem and
Yeah.
those types of games, like with varied level design. Quake always, like, whenever I think of Quake, I just think of brown.
Brown
Like
and
just
dark.
brown corridors and,
Mhm.
and grey. And then the most controversial for Triple S tier in this was Doom 3. Doom 3 is in there. One, it's not a boomer shooter,
No.
but I mean, I wouldn't put it next to Duke Nukem 3D and Doom.
No. I mean, again, it's like I haven't played Doom 3 enough to really formulate like an, I guess, like accurate opinion of it. It's just, when as soon as you start playing it, it's not like a Doom game, it's not a boomer shooter. It is very different mechanically, so doesn't really deserve to be on the list in my personal opinion.
Yeah. Well, I think that whatever happens after this discussion, Plushie, is that I really want to play some friggin' boomer shooters, that's for sure.
I agree. In fact, I don't even know which one to play right now. I think that the main thing I want to play next is Ion Fury. I think I should experience that game.
I want to play that again. I want to play Dusk again.
I want to play Dusk again too.
What did I just download? That Hedon demo. I kind of want, out of curiosity, I want to play that Herot game.
Just be bathed in brown light.
I just want to be bathed in brown before I go to bed.
Hell yeah. That sounds great. I kind of want to play Blood now as well.
Yeah, I want to play Blood again.
I want to play Turok. I want to play Turok too. I need to look at this. You've opened a whole can of worms here. So
I know if I start playing Turok though, I'll be in that level looking around for stuff for 45 minutes, and then it'll be 3 o'clock in the morning.
Hey, no shame to have
then I'll want to cry.
Have a little guide open on the side. Don't look at it unless you absolutely need to.
Dude, I would not even know where to start with a guide in that game. I mean, the first level alone, it's like, oh, where do I go next to the brown wall with the straw hut? It's like, that's everywhere, dude. That's everywhere. I don't know.
Man, but this has been a great discussion. I think this is a topic that we're both very familiar with, that we both care a lot about. This is a genre that we've had with us our entire lives, and it's been a joy to kind of share our thoughts on these games, because we feel pretty much, I'd say, very similarly about this style.
I think so, yeah.
And it's good. Now I have a few games lined up for me to dive into and stuff. It's been great. I think that pretty much wraps up the episode for the most part. We've covered a lot of ground today. I think so. Next week when we do it, when we do VGB show, if we do VGB show, if you're available, it'll be on your channel. So let me give a little shout out to TTV Sub-Zero, as always.
Oh, it's me.
As you. Also, I'm thinking, unless you have another idea for a topic, since we've been focusing largely on genres, and I've been enjoying these talks, how would you feel about immersing ourselves in the world of immersive sims next week?
Ooh. Yeah, that'll be... you know what? I am probably not the biggest expert on immersive sims.
Okay.
Probably only in the fact that I've never played the original Deus Ex through properly.
I have not either, to be honest. And I've never played System Shock, so I'm maybe... maybe I can't speak on this matter. I don't know. I don't know.
There is a Steam sale on at the moment.
Oh, is there?
And how much is System Shock? I feel like System Shock 1. Oh my god, there's a System Shock for £32. Oh, it's coming
Didn't
soon.
they? Oh, yeah.
Oh,
they're
it's
like
the remaster.
And isn't Night Dive doing it?
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
That's been around for ages, though, I'm sure.
What
It's
about
just soon, TM?
System Shock Enhanced Edition? That's also Night
Yeah.
Dive Studios. Is that the version that I would be playing? I guess it is, right?
It's only £2.44, but I mean, System Shock 1 is a hard game to get into. It really is.
Oh, I believe
it.
Do you think 2 is better? Have you played both of them?
Yeah, I've played System Shock 1, but I didn't get very far because it was just like ridiculous. Like, and it kind of scared me as well. Like recently, but yeah, System Shock 2 was much more user friendly for me. But what was the other one we said? Deus Ex.
Deus Ex.
I really should play the original Deus Ex. I've played all the latest ones.
Me too.
I
Yeah.
actually have it. I didn't realize, but I actually have it.
Oh
so.
wow, there you go.
It's 69p, so I'm sure you'll have it soon as well.
Yeah. Definitely. Deus Ex, the original?
Yeah, it's 69p.
So
Nice.
we've got very nice. I've got Deus Ex. Is Invisible War? No, that's
No. That's the bad one.
That's the bad
Apparently.
one. Don't play
That's
that
the
one.
bad one. Yeah, get the Game of the Year edition.
Oh, okay,
that
I
one.
see it. Here it is.
Yeah.
Here it is. I'm adding it. Okay, cool.
Was it $1?
Yeah, it's $1, 97 cents.
Nice.
They've got
There
a
you go.
bundle of all of them for $10. Of all the
Well,
Deus
even
Ex
the latest
games.
ones.
Yeah, even the latest ones.
Holy moly. I've got them all.
Yeah.
The only thing that's left in the bundle is the season pass for Mankind Divided. It's £1.81. Okay.
But even though you know, we might not have played the games that maybe, you know, kicked off the genre, I will do a little bit of research into them. But we've probably played a shit ton of the more recent modern immersive sims. I mean, I didn't play
Deus Ex Prey.
Deus Ex, Prey. I never played System Shock, but I played all 3 BioShock games. And there's
Would you call them immersive sims?
the first one. Yes, I would actually.
Really?
But I don't
well,
know
that's
about...
something we can discuss next week. Maybe.
Indeed. Definitely not 3 though. I wouldn't consider Infinite an immersive sim, not even a little bit. But yeah, that's an excellent topic for us to dive into next week. I am looking forward to it. But I think that'll do it for today. I'm gonna double check and see if I don't think I'm gonna do a raid today. We're not gonna do a raid. We're just gonna end it off. But again, as always, thank you for being here, Zub. Thanks for co-hosting with me. Thank you
very
for
much.
everyone who came and hung out and listened to us talk for 3 hours and 15 minutes. And a big thank you to Easy, GameX, and Alley Cat for their subscriptions today. I appreciate you guys so deeply. You're amazing people. And I will talk to you all next time. Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye. Bye.